Chapter 1524. After a day, all the procedures had been completed, and all that was left was the banquet and the guests. Chu Qingyan returned to the palace to change out of her wedding dress and into a phoenix robe and a phoenix coronet. This palace dress was custom-made and matched the wedding dress. It was as dazzling as fire. At the start of the banquet, the emperor and empress sat together at the main seat. The civil and military officials and their family members sat on both sides, congratulating the most honorable couple in the Sichuan. Xiao Yao and Xiao Ho were the first to present their congratulatory gifts. One was a child giving guanyin that he had drawn himself, while the other was a pot of jade lotus flowers. The meaning was self-evident. After the two of them left, a voice suddenly sounded from outside. The envoy from Shang Nation presents his congratulatory gifts. Everyone was surprised. Sichuan and Shang Nation had nothing to do with each other. Why would they send gifts? At this moment, an elegant civil official walked in and bowed. This official is here on the orders of our Princess Qing and Prince Consort to congratulate His Majesty and Empress for 100 years of bliss. As he spoke, the civil official waved his hand, and the subordinates behind him came forward with gift boxes. There was a precious jade rui, a rare pearl of the Eastern Sea, an exquisite gold and silver tea set, and even a small rattle drum. It was obvious that he had put in a lot of effort. My prince consort said that they should have come personally, but something came up at the last minute, so they can only meet next time. In order to make up for not being able to come personally this time, my prince consort said that he would gift 10,000 dan of rice as long as His Majesty and Empress raise his little nephew until he is white and chubby. The civil official left after speaking. Chu Qingyan's mouth twitched. So much food, did he want Nkong to eat until he was a ball? Why didn't Lingfeng and Qingqing come? She asked the person beside her in a low voice. Xiao Su coughed lightly. He's going to be a father again. Pfft, wasn't he too good at giving birth? No wonder Big Ice Cube looked like he wanted to say something but stopped himself. Chu Qingyan really wanted to give Lingfeng a thumbs up. But before she could think more, someone else came in. The envoy from Jiang Nation presents his congratulatory gifts. An old man wearing the uniform of the Jiang Kingdom walked in. Behind him was another person holding a gift box. This old subject is here on the orders of the monarch to congratulate His Majesty Sichuan and the Empress on their marriage. At the same time, this old subject would like to thank the Empress for her help in the past. Therefore, this old subject would like to present a congratulatory gift and wish the two of you happiness. As he spoke, the people in the first row behind him opened their gift boxes one by one. They were all expensive and priceless gifts. Because Princess Yao has just given birth to a young princess, she cannot personally come to congratulate you. Therefore, this old subject has been entrusted by Princess Yao and Prince Consort of Tang to send a congratulatory gift. With that, the rest of the gift boxes were opened. From silk and satin to children's dolls, all of them were exquisite and meticulous. Although Chu Qingyan felt that it was a pity that these friends could not personally witness her happiness, she was also very happy to know that they were living such a happy life now. After thanking the envoys from the two countries one by one, the smile on Chu Qingyan's face did not disappear for a long time. The gifts from these two countries surprised everyone present. They did not expect their empress to have such a wide network of connections. To be more precise, everyone thought that this Empress Chu did not have any family background. Now that they saw it, it was simply too dazzling, okay? Her friends were all over the other countries, and they were all people of high status and power. Their Majesty really married a shining treasure. In the future, who would dare to offend the Empress? It was simply courting death, okay? However, just when everyone thought that the matter was over, someone sang again. The Hua family of Jiangnan sends a congratulatory gift. The Hua family of Jiangnan. Could it be the Hua family of Sichuan's richest family? Hua Xiao appeared in front of everyone in a gorgeous male outfit. It was different from the female outfit today. She had a different style. She represented her good friend's family, okay? She could not lose face. Now that Shi Xian had many things to do, it was the time when they needed money. The moment Hua Xiu made a move, he directly sent real gold and silver. 3 million taels of silver, the entire main hall instantly shook 3 times. Hua Xiu was the young master of the Hua family, the future heir. Her words and actions represented the entire Hua family. She directly said that it was a congratulatory gift for the empress. It went without saying that she was on the empress's side. In the future, who would dare to say that the empress had no money and no power? She could slap people in the face anytime, okay? Chu Qingyan was very surprised that her good friend would send such a large gift. At this time, her good friend winked at her, as if to say, "This is your money." In the past few years, the business of the continuation products had been getting better and better. It had already expanded to the neighboring countries and made a lot of money, so it could be said that this was all her money. Hua Xiu did not dawdle and turned to sit. She did not want to delay the gift-giving segment. Moon Palace sends a gift. Lan Manor sends a gift. The next 2 people were completely out of Chu Qingyan's expectations. The person beside her sat like a clock, as if he was not surprised at all. It seemed that he already knew. Shan Guang came from Lan Zhuang, and he brought 10,000 horses. This gift was simply too considerate. After the great battles last year, the soldiers and horses had suffered heavy losses. Now was the perfect time to replenish their supplies. Xuanqi Zimo, who had come from the Moon Palace, also gave his blessings and handed over a gift box. However, he didn't open it. Chu Qingyan really wanted to ask where his master was, but because of the occasion, she could only keep it to herself. In a short while, the gifts received by the emperor and empress were enough to match 10 years of the Sichuan treasury's income. Everyone present looked at Chu Qingyan as if they were looking at Bulin's money tree. She was simply attracting wealth and treasures. No wonder Master Su Jian gave such a high evaluation. It turned out that the new empress's connections were not only in other countries, but also among the common people and the pugilistic world. Your Majesty, do you still need a leg hanger? The kind that can act cute. Chu Qingyan looked at everyone's sparkling eyes. She tilted her head and asked the person beside her, "Does that mean that no one will stop me from walking sideways in the future?" Xiao Su looked at her with a faint smile. "With me here, who dares to stop you?" It was like she had drunk a mouthful of honey. Her mouth was filled with sweetness, but she still raised her brows and teased, "Then what if you bully me?" "How could I bully you? I can't even wait to pamper and love you. Moreover, you have so many people backing you up. This is what I should be worried about." Xiao Su held her hand, his fingers gently caressing it. His tender affection was evident in his words. Chu Qingyan snickered. "Don't worry, I won't casually bully you." Xiao Su's eyes brightened slightly. He smiled slyly at her. "I don't mind if you bully me. For example, tonight's wedding night." Chu Qingyan's face instantly turned red. How could this person say such indecent things in such a serious manner? There are so many people here. Restrain yourself. So what you're saying is that when we go back and there's no one around, I can do whatever I want. So shameless. Can I go back on my word? Can I return it? This item has been sold. It's non-refundable. So shameless. The night of spring was unbearable. The red candles burned out and turned into red waves. This feeling lingered until dawn. Life and death contract, we'll make a promise. Holding your hand, we'll grow old together. As long as you're willing to wait, the happiness you want will come. Chapter 1525. The Emperor and Empress wedding, amnesty for the world, the whole country celebrated, and all the people rejoiced. The palace was still decorated with lanterns and colored banners. The red silk had not been removed, and the lanterns were bright red. Looking around, it was like walking into a sea of red. Xiao Su was excused from court for 3 days, and he was deeply affectionate with his empress. From time to time, he would throw out dog food, and everyone would protest. As for the female pig trotter, Chu Qingyan, she felt both pain and joy in making this public display of affection. Because her big ice cube's possessiveness was really too strong, and because he had been unable to get close to her for the past few months, and because she had given birth to Kangkang, all her thoughts were on Kangkang. He didn't show it on the surface, but he always remembered it in his heart. This time, Kangkang was taken away by his mother, leaving them a chance to be alone. How could he not grasp such a good opportunity? Thus, she fell asleep on the bed, woke up on the bed, and ate on the bed. She finally couldn't take it anymore. Big ice cube, I'm hungry. Did I not feed you enough? Not that, I want to eat. Ian, you're thinking the wrong way, I'm talking about eating. She was speechless. Then why did you throw yourself at me again? The indescribable part passed. I'm really hungry. I'll eat by myself, be good, I'll feed you. I can drink the soup myself, I don't need you to feed me. You, woo. In the end, it evolved into an indescribable part. I'm going to take a bath. Be good, I'll hug you. In the end, it evolved into an indescribable part. I'm sleepy, I want to sleep. Okay, I'll accompany you. In the end, it evolved into an indescribable part. It was extremely lingering, as if to make up for these past few months. In the end, she laid in his arms, and no longer had the strength to push his face away. Big Ice Cube, I really wonder if I'll really become an evil concubine who brings disaster to the country if this continues. TSK TSK TSK, from now on, the emperor won't go to court. After Xiao Su stole a kiss, he chuckled softly. His laughter vibrated in her ears. She thought spinelessly, how could it be so devilish and so pleasant to the ears? Now that you've bribed the entire imperial court, do you think they dare to say anything? And even if I don't attend court, what do you think they would dare to say? Xiao Su propped up his chin and stroked her black hair with one hand. His smile was elegant and his tone was doting, as if he didn't take this seriously at all. Chu Qingyan covered her face with her hands. Oh no, she was really going to become a demon concubine. How could he say something like that? Seeing that the little fellow really believed him, Xiao Su was happy. He pinched her face, then lifted her chin and leaned over to kiss her. I still have the energy to let my imagination run wild. This proves that I'm not working hard enough. Again. The corners of her mouth twitched, and she really wanted to shrink back. But just as she raised her head and was about to say something, she saw his impeccable face. His skin, which was usually as white as snow, was now dyed with a light pink color. It was extremely attractive, and his pair of eyes, which were usually calm and composed, were now burning with two small flames, as if they were about to ignite her. His half-open shirt revealed his strong chest. Only then did she realize where her line of sight had landed. She hurriedly tried to look away, but the heat had already closed in, leaving her with nowhere to retreat. Ian, the night of spring is too short. We can't waste it. With that, the clothes she had just put on disappeared once again. When her consciousness was finally submerged by the waves, a sentence flashed through her mind. She, again, fell for the handsome man's trick. When you're with the person you love, even if you miss a glance, you'll think it's a waste. When I'm with you, nothing I do is enough. Like glue, looking into each other's eyes, it was like seeing a flourishing peach blossom. The sun was high in the sky. The sunlight shone through the window and onto the ground. A gentle breeze blew, and the shadows of the trees danced. It only made people feel lazy, and they really wanted to continue sleeping like this. However, Chu Qingyan still woke up. Although her whole body was sore, as if she had been crushed once. Every time she moved, she couldn't help but feel sore. This was because she didn't feel the aura of the big ice cube. Turning her head, the pillow was already empty. She blinked a few times, and after adjusting to the light, she slowly got up. There was no need to describe the feeling. She was soft and powerless. She held her forehead. These past few days, she had been in a drunken stupor. She didn't even know what day it was. When the people outside heard the movement inside, they pushed the door open and came in. "Master, you're awake?" Xining asked in a crisp voice. The people who came in were Xining and Jasper, followed by a few palace maids who were carrying water. Where's His Majesty?" "His Majesty went to the morning court. Before he left, he told us not to wake you up and let you sleep until you wake up naturally." Xining held back her laughter. Master and His Majesty had been together every day. In just a short while, Master already missed His Majesty. It could be seen how good their relationship was. Chu Qingyan heard the teasing in Xining's words and her cheeks couldn't help but turn red. But what made her happy was that the big ice cube still knew to go to the morning court. She finally didn't have to worry about people calling her a demon concubine. After getting out of bed and washing up, Chu Qingyan planned to visit her son who had been pushed away by the big ice cube. However, before she could leave the hall, Jin Xian came in with a small box. Master Su Jian asked this subordinate to bring this to you." Jin Xian walked in front of her and presented it with both hands. Chu Qingyan was no longer surprised. These good friends seemed to have discussed it beforehand. Each of them had prepared a gift, and each of them made her feel that it was too precious. It was just that most of them couldn't thank her in person. Although the big ice cube had sent invitations, they were all busy and couldn't be present. This made her feel a little regretful. She opened the box and asked, "Where is he?" "Master Su Jian left 3 days ago," Jin Xian replied. At this moment, Chu Qingyan had just opened the box to see what was inside. She was stunned by Jin Xian's words. "Left?" "Yes, on the night of Master's wedding." In such a hurry, she was a little disappointed as she carefully picked up the Buddhist beads. The reddish-brown color looked no different from ordinary Buddhist beads, but when she held it in her hand, the warmth of the whole body and the simple aura that hit her in the face seemed to say that this bracelet was very precious. Did he leave any other words? Master Su Jian said that this farewell may be many years. He hopes that you will take care. That's really his character. Every time he helped someone, he would disappear without a trace. On Mount Feng, inside the Hugua Temple, Su Jian was still wearing his green monk robes. At this moment, he was standing under the Bodhi tree. His sleeves fluttered in the absence of wind, and the morning dew on his body had already been evaporated by the sunlight. God knew how long he had been standing there. "Buddha, I failed to overcome my tribulation. I entered the mortal world and broke my precepts. I am willing to go into seclusion again and never come out of the mountain in this life." That woman had entered his dreams and fulfilled his heart of great love. The mortal world was like a dream. Although he failed to overcome the tribulation, he had no regrets. He put his palms together and looked in the direction of the imperial palace. His eyes revealed a faint smile, then he turned and slowly left. A lotus bloomed with each step, and a Bodhi tree appeared with each step. Chapter 1526. After putting away the prayer beads, Chu Qingyan seemed to have thought of something. She said to Jasper, "Bring over the box sent by the Moon Palace for me to see." Jasper obeyed. Not long after, she came back with a box. The box was made of green jade and was a bit heavy. Chu Qingyan raised her hand to open it. There was no complicated gift, only a jade flute lying there. It was green all over, like an indomitable bamboo, which was very different from his personality. She thought that with his personality, he would give her something popular, but she never thought that it would be so elegant. But thinking of the bone whistle in the past, she couldn't help laughing softly. He always did things that people didn't expect. She reached out and took it out. The cold touch in this somewhat hot weather made her feel refreshed. Thinking about it, the flute sound she heard on the day of her wedding came from this flute. "Dong ting dong ting, do you not plan on seeing me?" Stroking the flute, the smile on her lips faded and she felt a bit disappointed. "Xiao Ran is not here, Su Jian is gone, you don't want to see me." "Master, what are you saying?" Xining tilted her head and asked in confusion. Jin Xian standing on the side suddenly looked up, Master, do you need this subordinate to send someone to find young Master Dong Ting? Chu Qingyan sighed softly, no need. She believed that he had his own reasons for not appearing. Let's go see Kong Kong. She carefully put down the flute and ordered someone to put it away before stepping out of the palace. Yansu Palace and Anran Palace were only separated by a small garden, so the group didn't walk far before arriving. The moment they stepped into Anran Palace, they bumped into Hualing, who had a bitter face. Why are you here? Where's father and Nkong? Replying to the little empress, the old man took the little prince and sneaked out through the window. This subordinate is going to look for them. Chu Qingyan found it funny. Father seemed to like playing hide and seek with Hualing recently. Where's my mother? The old madam is resting. Then let's not disturb her anymore. Let's go look for her together. Yes. Chu Qingyan had just taken 2 steps when she received news that her father and imperial grandfather had encountered each other in the imperial garden. They were having a great time fighting, so the group of people immediately headed towards the imperial garden. Although she had heard of her father and imperial grandfather's battle of wits and courage many times, this was the first time she had witnessed it. Just as she arrived, a shower of petals fell from the sky, showering her with a rain of petals. Yo, Kai is here. Hi, granddaughter-in-law. Just as she shook off the petals on her body, she heard 2 voices above her head. She looked up and saw 2 old urchins standing on top of a tree, facing each other. What are you 2 doing? The ground was covered with withered flowers and withered leaves. A corner of the entire imperial garden had been destroyed. Fortunately, Big Ice Cube was not a flower lover. Otherwise, he would be heartbroken. We're competing in willpower. Retired Emperor took the time to reply to her. How do we compete? Her face was full of question marks. Let's see who blinks first. Mr. Chu chuckled. Chu Qingyan facepalmed. Were they so bored that they had nothing better to do? That's right, granddaughter-in-law, Kong Kong is by the wall in front. Go and take care of him. It will be difficult to determine the winner. Chu Qingyan did not have the time to facepalm. She shook her head and led the others over. Did they just abandon her son like that? What happened to the treasure that they were going to fight over? Just as they passed through the arched door, Chu Qingyan suddenly stopped in her tracks and stared in front of her in disbelief. Jasper, who was following behind her, could not see the arched door in front of them. She immediately asked, Master. Chu Qingyan returned to her senses and immediately raised her hand. All of you, back down. Without my orders, do not come near here. Although they did not know why their master had suddenly given such an order, Jasper, Xining, Jean Xian, and the others still obeyed and retreated. When they were far away, Chu Qingyan stared ahead. It felt like a while had passed, but it also felt like a century had passed. She blinked away the tears at the corners of her eyes before she lifted her feet and walked towards the figure in front of her. Higashio Motetsu was half-squatting and was completely focused on playing with the child in the cradle. He was completely unaware that someone was approaching. At this moment, he was still thinking that this was indeed the little lass's child. Although Xiao Su's blood flowed in his body, he was still very likable. Today, he had only wanted to sneak a peek at the little lass before returning to the Moon Palace to deal with the matters at the Moon Palace. However, he had not expected to see her child the moment he entered the Imperial Garden. Out of curiosity, he had stayed behind. He had not expected to be attracted by this obedient and adorable child. Just as he was playing with Nkang's fingers, a dissatisfied and familiar voice sounded behind him. Sneaking in without even looking at me. Are you planning to leave without a word again? Dong. Ting. Wang. You. Higashio Motetsu's body stiffened. Oh no, he had been caught red-handed. Haha, aren't I here now? He turned around and smiled ingratiatingly at the person who had just arrived. When Chu Qingyan saw his pretentious smile, she couldn't help but say in disdain, put away that reluctant fake smile of yours. It's an eyesore. Higashio Motetsu knew that she was being awkward. The corners of his lips curled up into a devilish smile. I say, little lass, you've been hanging out with Xiao Su for too long recently. Your temper has grown. I even dragged my injuries back here, but you didn't say anything nice and even mocked me. Aren't you being too heartless? I'm suffering in my heart, but I won't say it. When she heard this, Chu Qingyan could no longer pretend. She immediately rushed forward. Are you all right? Where are you injured? Do you want me to get someone to take a look at you? Seeing her worried and anxious expression, his heart warmed and he changed the subject. I was lying. It's been almost a year, and my injuries have long healed. You're still the same as before, so gullible. He then laughed heartily. Chu Qingyan pursed her lips. She wanted to slap him to death. However, such a relaxed atmosphere made her relax. His words were still as annoying as before. He still had a sharp tongue but a soft heart. He was still the same as before. He hadn't changed. The words that were about to come out of her mouth turned into a soft and gentle voice. She said with reddened eyes, Dongting, it's great that you're back. Otherwise, I'd have to live with this debt to you for the rest of my life. Bearing the burden of a good friend's life was so heavy that it would be difficult for her to rest her life. The smile on his face faded, and the teasing in his eyes was replaced by a look of pity. If he wasn't afraid that she would feel guilty for the rest of her life, he wouldn't have struggled to survive. He already had no motivation to live, so how could he have the courage to live? However, he still couldn't bear to see her incomplete happiness. He couldn't bear to see her go to hell. Don't worry, my life is tough. He brushed the hair on his forehead in a self-admitted flirtatious manner. Seeing how narcissistic he was, Chu Qingyan couldn't help but laugh. She couldn't be serious for more than 3 seconds when she was with him. It was just that he said it so easily, but that might not be the case. He must have gone through a lot of pain to be able to stand in front of her in one piece. She walked over and picked up their son, who had been staring at them with wide eyes from the cradle. Then she turned to him and said, Do you want to hold my child? The baby with grape-sized eyes blinked at him. Higashio Motetsu couldn't help but swallow his saliva. Chapter 1527. Can I really carry him? Higashio Motetsu rubbed his hands. He seemed to be hesitant, expectant, and eager to try. When he first came, he only dared to look at the child from afar. If it wasn't for the fact that the child didn't recognize strangers and giggled at him, he would have turned into a fossil. Chu Qingyan looked at him and saw that he was no longer as carefree as before. She couldn't help but smile and put the child in his arms. Hold it tight. Hold it with your arms. The moment he touched the soft doll, Higashio Motetsu felt his entire body stiffen. He didn't even dare to move, as if he was frightened. Relax, don't be nervous. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but laugh out loud at this rare scene. It was really too funny. Usually, when he was facing enemies, he didn't look so serious. It was too rare. If it was any other time, he definitely wouldn't let her be so smug. But now, he couldn't even take care of himself, so how could he have the time to care about her? I'm afraid I'll drop it, he said with a trembling voice. Aren't you hugging it well? Raise your left hand slightly. Chu Qingyan corrected his posture. To be honest, why did she feel like he was hugging a bag of explosives? Xiao Kong sucked on his little finger and looked at the person above his head. He was so cute, so why was he shaking? After a while, when he finally got used to it, Higashio Motetsu dared to move Xiao Kong closer to him. At this moment, Xiao Kong suddenly smiled at him. This smile was like the spring breeze that melted the ice, blowing away the clouds in the sky bit by bit, revealing the multicolored light. He relaxed and smiled. He turned around and asked, What's this child's name? His nickname is Xiao Kong, and his full name is Xiao Huichen. She gave him the nickname, and his full name was given by the ice cube. Higashio Motetsu nodded. Good name. With that, he lowered his head and looked at the child in his arms with a gentle expression, as if he didn't want to look away for a moment. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but laugh. She then sat down on the stone chair and quietly looked at the pair of big children. After a while, he heard her ask, "Dongting, how have you been for the past year?" He paused for a moment and then rolled his eyes at her. "It's great. I'm so happy that I don't even want to go home." She knew that after he came back, he didn't tell her the truth. "Why didn't you show up a few days ago?" "Oh, on your wedding day. I just came back and there are too many people. I don't like to join in the fun. What's more, there's still a huge mess to deal with. I don't have the time." He pretended to frown in frustration. As soon as he finished speaking, a slap landed on his back. It wasn't a strong slap, but it made him laugh involuntarily. Chu Qingyan snorted. "I think you're itching for a beating. You don't even have time for my wedding." She didn't really want to blame him. Wasn't he there? He even gave her a gift. He just didn't show up. "Alright, little grandaunt. I was wrong, okay? Can you stop lecturing me? I'm afraid that you're so fierce. It's fine if you scare the flowers and grass, but what if you scare the baby?" His tone was still as annoying as ever. Chu Qingyan snorted and let him off. "Why did you climb over the wall today? Why didn't you go through the palace gates?" She propped up her chin and asked as she watched him tease and Kong. "You know that the people of the pugilistic world don't care about trifles. So if it's something that can be done by climbing over the wall, why go through so much trouble?" Higashio Motetsu chuckled. When he met his good friend's disdainful gaze, he shook his head and smiled. "Alright, I'll tell you the truth. I just wanted to see how the guards in the palace are doing. In the end, it's really not that good." 2 black lines appeared on her forehead. When she saw him just now, she could clearly feel that his skills had increased by another level. She was afraid that she wouldn't be his opponent anymore. The martial arts of the palace guards were already very high in any place, but compared to a top expert like him, was it not good enough? The two of them talked for a while, and another hour passed. Higashio Motetsu reluctantly returned Little and Kong to her. "I have to go. Aren't you going to stay for a while longer?" After all, they had been separated for so long, and she was a little reluctant. "There are many things in the sect. I have to go back and deal with them." He stood up and shrugged his shoulders at her. She nodded. Before leaving, Higashio Motetsu looked at her with gentle and smiling eyes. "From now on, as long as I'm around, the Moon Palace will not find trouble with you. You can rest assured." There was too much information hidden in his words, but she understood it immediately. Warmth surged in her heart. "Dongting, thank you." "What's there to thank me for? I'm leaving, there's no need to send me off. I'll come to see the child next time." He waved his hand with his back facing her. Then, with a light tap of his foot, he leapt out. When he had already disappeared, Chu Qingyan turned to face the other side. "He's already gone. Are you still not coming out?" After a while, a rustling sound rang out, and a pretty figure appeared in front of her. She was dressed in a pink veil, and there was a hairpin in her hair. She looked fresh and refined. Her skin was fair and beautiful, and her eyes were bright and her teeth were white. There was a spiritual aura between her brows. This young girl was a spiritual beauty, but she didn't have any impression of her. However, Chu Qingyan didn't know her, but she knew a lot about her. "I'm Tao Tao, Tao Tao of the Gentleman Tao Tao." Tao Tao introduced herself. "Hello, Tao Tao. Please sit. Do you know Dongting?" Chu Qingyan saw the hostility in her eyes, but she didn't care. Tao Tao saw her greeting her with a normal expression, as if she wasn't an uninvited guest, but a friend. She sat down smoothly. "Why are you so calm? Usually, when there was a stranger by your side, shouldn't you be vigilant first?" She had never seen such a straightforward and pure girl. Chu Qingyan laughed softly. Under her puzzled gaze, she explained, "You are not my match." Although the big ice cube, Dong Ting, Su Jian and the others were all experts among experts, and she was still a level below them, she was more than enough to deal with the others. Therefore, when you were with outstanding people, you would also become outstanding unknowingly. Although Tao Tao was unwilling to accept it, it made sense when she thought about it. From the information she had obtained, this Empress Chu was indeed a rare expert. Moreover, her forte wasn't martial arts. Thus, she didn't dwell on this matter. "Indeed, I am his doctor. More accurately, I am pursuing him." She crossed her arms and said each word clearly, as if she was declaring her sovereignty. Chu Qingyan laughed when she heard this. "What are you laughing at?" Tao Tao scratched the back of her head. Why didn't this person play her cards according to common sense? "I'm very happy. I finally see someone taking in this evildoer, so please work hard." Chu Qingyan cheered her on. Tao Tao's lips twitched. It seemed like this person in front of her wasn't a love rival. It seemed like she was thinking too much. Chapter 1528. Don't you think it's strange? Tao Tao asked foolishly. What's so strange about it? It's better to be a gentleman than a lady. Chu Qingyan winked at her. Besides, people in the martial arts world don't care about trifles. I can understand. After receiving support, Tao Tao's good impression of Chu Qingyan increased in the chat. Tao Tao immediately put down the arrogance she had just been putting on. She held her face with both hands and smiled shyly. Can I really? Didn't I say that it's impossible for a woman to chase a man? Chu Qingyan smiled. Believe in yourself. Tao Tao seemed to have gained more confidence. She smiled and then looked at her seriously. I thought you were a difficult person to get along with. I didn't expect you to be so approachable. Why do you say that? Chu Qingyan was slightly surprised. Because you're very good-looking. I've never seen anyone prettier than you. But good-looking people are usually very aloof and don't put others in their eyes, Tao Tao said while nodding to herself. That was because her martial uncles and senior sisters were all like that. But in the end, she smiled and said, but you are different. Chu Qingyan felt that this little girl was really straightforward. She couldn't help but tease her. Don't you think Dong Ting is better looking? Tao Tao widened her eyes. Yes, yes. He's simply a demon. But I like him. She stuck out her tongue and said the last sentence without any shyness. Chu Qingyan was amused. How did you meet Dong Ting? She asked. Tao Tao rolled her eyes and remembered that he hadn't told Chu Qingyan how he spent the past year. She didn't want to gossip, so she shook her head. It's a secret. Chu Qingyan thought that she was shy, so she didn't ask anymore. By the way, I have to go. Otherwise, he'll be far away and I won't be able to catch up with him. Tao Tao jumped up and was about to climb over the wall, but she stopped and looked back at Chu Qingyan. The relaxed smile on her face was gone. Instead, it was more serious. Dong Ting has done a lot for you. He's sacrificed a lot. I know. Chu Qingyan restrained her smile. But it doesn't matter. You don't have to feel guilty, because I will treat him well, very well, very well. I won't let him walk alone. This sentence seemed to be a declaration of sovereignty, but also a promise. Chu Qingyan was the person he liked, but it was impossible for them to be together, so she would be responsible for the rest of his life. Thank you very much. Chu Qingyan thanked him sincerely. Tao Tao smiled. There's nothing to thank me for. I'm happy to do it. Let's go. With that, she disappeared behind the wall. Chu Qingyan stared at the wall in a daze. At this time, a figure woke her up from her contemplation. Are you fooling me? As he spoke, he had already walked behind her and reached out to hold her and the baby in his arms. When did you come over? She didn't need to turn around to know who it was. Since you said that it's impossible for a man to chase a woman. Xiaosu rested his chin on her shoulder and closed his eyes slightly. It seems like you came at the right time. I'm not fooling her. It's just that I like this little girl. I think she and Dongting are a good match, she answered truthfully. Hearing the two words, Dongting, Xiaosu opened his eyes. Little girl? I think she's about the same age as you, but the two of them are very active. They are a good match. Active? What kind of stupid reason was that? Ian, the Moon Palace has changed hands. It should be Dongting who did it. Big Ice Cube, we owe him a lot. Yes, I know. I'll find a chance to repay this favor. It's only right for the husband to repay his wife's debts. Xiaosu didn't want to owe this elusive love rival of his anymore. Although it was impossible for him and Ian to be together, he was still unhappy that his wife was being targeted. Xiaosu's possessiveness came online again. Big Ice Cube, you're so nice. Chu Qingyan rubbed his chin. I'll help you repay what you owe him. Then you can repay what you owe me with your body. What excuse could she find to avoid the Big Ice Cube's dissatisfaction? It's urgent, I'm waiting online. Higashio Motetsu was indeed like what he said before. He often climbed over the wall to see her and the baby. At first, he was alone, but later Tao Tao also appeared together with him. Xiaosu knew about this, but he turned a blind eye during the day. However, once night came, he would take it even more seriously from his wife, saying that it was time for him to repay her with his body. Every time Chu Qingyan got up from the bed with her hand on her waist, she wanted to pull him over and give him a good beating. However, she was no match for him. Chu Qingyan drank tea and glanced at the person who was playing with the baby with a rattle drum. She raised her eyebrows and said, "If you like children so much, why don't you have one yourself? Forget it, if you want me to raise a child, why don't you kill me? I'm afraid it'll melt in my mouth, and I'm afraid it'll break in my hands. It's too hard to please. Moreover, I can't give birth alone." He waved his hand, his eyes fixed on Nkong in the cradle as he casually replied. Chu Qingyan looked at Tao Tao, only to see her looking at Nkong with a normal expression. Chu Qingyan chuckled. It seemed that he could keep his composure better than she thought. At this moment, Tao Tao took away the rattle drum in his hand when he wasn't paying attention, because she realized that little Nkong especially loved this rattle drum today. Tao Tao. Why are you stealing mine? Higashio Motetsu saw that Nkong ignored him and looked at Tao Tao, so he frowned and said. Tao Tao said righteously, "This rattle drum isn't yours." But I took it first. He glared. Oh, but now that it's in my hands, you can only blame yourself for not being able to protect it. Tao Tao stuck her tongue out at him and mocked. Higashio Motetsu felt that he couldn't be described as angry at all. He was simply furious. Chu Qingyan rubbed her forehead. This kind of thing happened 2 or 3 times every time. Coincidentally, Jasper came over for something, so she took a few steps away to talk. When she came back, only Dongting was left holding the child and shaking the rattle drum. She couldn't help but be puzzled. Where's Tao Tao? She left. He took the time to reply while playing with the child. You made her run away in anger again? This wasn't the 2nd or 3rd time. If only I could really make her run away in anger, then I wouldn't have to be so troubled. He looked up and said helplessly. Is that so? Why can't I tell that you're troubled? Tao Tao, on the other hand, is a very good girl. Can't you tell that she seems to like you a lot? Chu Qingyan asked seriously. He smiled bitterly and said, we're not compatible. Because he had loved before, he was merciful. Not being able to love was too torturous. Although he sincerely wished the little fellow well, he didn't have any extra feelings for others. So he didn't want her to follow in his footsteps. She still wanted to say something, but it was a pity that this was a matter between the two of them after all. It wouldn't be good for her to get involved too much. At this moment, he put the child back into the cradle and stood up, smiling wickedly. I still have something to do, so I'll take my leave first. I'll come back to see you later. Chu Qingyan looked at his departing figure and sighed faintly. When it came to relationships, it was hard to say. It still depended on the heart. As for the outcome, it could only depend on their luck. Chu Qingyan walked back with the baby in her arms. She lowered her head and smiled gently. Kong Kong, let's go to the imperial study to visit your imperial father and bring him delicious food, okay? Kong Kong waved his arms and laughed. If he wanted happiness, it was very simple. He just had to be content. Chapter 1529. Spring came and autumn went. Flowers bloomed and fell. Snow fell and melted. Year after year, year after year, year after year. Time was like an arrow and the sun and moon were like shuttles. In the blink of an eye, 2 years passed. In Yen Su Palace, a baby's voice came out. You have no conscience, leaving this treasure in the middle of the night again. This treasure is angry, this treasure wants to run away from the palace. At this time, there was a small figure carrying a small bag on his back. His shoes made a bang, bang sound as he walked towards the door step by step. When he reached the threshold, he used his hands and feet to crawl over. Seeing this, Hu Ling and the others were scared witless. They wanted to go up and help him, but because of their master behind them, they didn't dare move forward. When the little master's small body turned into a small black dot and disappeared into the distance, Hu Ling looked at the little empress behind him with a bitter expression. Empress, the little master left. Do you need this subordinate to chase him back? Xining on the side gave a strong nod. Father Chu on the side was prepared to chase after him, but when his daughter looked over, he stopped in his tracks. He rubbed the back of his head as his eyes sparkled. How many times has it been this month? Chu Qingyan leaned back in her chair and casually asked. Xining heard this and immediately counted with her fingers, once at the beginning of the month, once before the old man's birthday, once 6 days ago, once yesterday, and adding today, it's the 5th time. Seeing Xining raise her hand, Chu Qingyan nodded, it's a bit better than last month. Then, Father Chu wanted to plead for his little grandson, but he was stopped by his daughter's gaze. Wait and see how long he can last this time. Chu Qingyan revealed a smile and said in a confident voice. Since the empress said this, then everyone would just wait. Although it was like this, Chu Qingyan could still see the anxious and worried expressions on everyone's faces. She gave a faint sigh. Kong Kong's arrogance of running away from home could not be encouraged. But why did it seem like she had become an evil mother? She felt bitter in her heart. After a while, everyone couldn't take it anymore. Chu Qingyan tapped her finger on the armrest and smiled. It seemed that she was quite stubborn this time. She was a little more stubborn than usual. At this moment, a small figure appeared in everyone's field of vision. The person who had been valiant and high-spirited just a moment ago was now drooping his head and looking pitifully at his imperial mother who was sitting on the main seat. Everyone immediately swarmed over and inquired about his well-being. Kong Kong, Grandpa's good grandson, aren't you tired? Cough, cough, correction, it was his grandson. He had clearly eaten a plate of osmanthus pastries before he left to replenish his energy. Little prince, are you thirsty? Cough, cough, he still had a small water bottle hanging from his waist. In order to resist, he had prepared everything. Little master, this subordinate was worried to death. Next time you leave, remember to bring this subordinate with you. This subordinate will protect your safety. Forget it, you're just here to spy on me. Little Kong Kong looked around at the people around him. His grandfather who was pretending to wipe his tears, Xining Yi who was holding water, Hu Ling Su who had volunteered, Jean Xian Su Su who was standing at the side, Jasper Yi who was holding a cloth towel. No matter how he thought about it, only his heartless imperial mother was not present. He walked over to his imperial mother with his short legs and pouted. Imperial mother, why didn't you come and look for Bao Bao? Bao Bao has almost reached the imperial garden. Where did you go last time? Chu Qingyan asked in amusement. Grandpa and the others at the entrance of the palace. Little Kangkang replied honestly. Chu Qingyan nodded and replied in a serious manner, you've improved compared to last time. Continue to work hard next time and you might even reach the entrance of the palace. Good luck, Bao Bao. Little Kangkang was stunned. Why was Imperial Mother not following the routine? How was he going to run away from home in the future? Looking at his smiling Imperial Mother, Little Kangkang suddenly had a bad idea. He swallowed his saliva and used his hands and feet to climb up his Imperial Mother's clothes. Because he had been thrown by Imperial Father to Shao Lai to be trained since he was young, he was very agile even though he was small. After climbing up to his Imperial Mother's knees, Little Kangkang gathered his emotions before opening his two short arms and hugging his Imperial Mother's neck. Then, he started to wail. You heartless person, you don't want Bao Bao anymore after having Imperial Father. Bao Bao's heart is bitter. Bao Bao is a child that no one wants. Why is Bao Bao's life so bitter? Bao Bao is so upset. Woo-woo. Little Kangkang was crying his heart out, but he still had the time to observe his Imperial Mother's expression. It seemed that he had been training hard for a long time. Even though they knew that the little master had to put on a show every few days, everyone's hearts still ached when they saw him crying, wishing that they could bear it for him. How could Chu Qingyan not know if he was really crying or faking it, but she knew that if she did not give him a way out now, he might really cry later. Who said that Imperial Mother doesn't want you after having you? Imperial Mother can't wait to dote on you. Look at how many people are worried about you when you cry. She patted his back gently, then pointed at the people around him and said gently with a smile. Little Kangkang blinked and looked back. He felt that his Imperial Mother's words were very reasonable, but he still turned back and nestled in her neck. He said in a muffled voice, but Bao Bao wants you to hurt Bao Bao more. Aren't you worried about Bao Bao? Chu Qingyan chuckled. Then how do you want Imperial Mother to dote on you more? Little Kangkang pouted and said slowly, accompany me tonight, don't accompany Imperial Father. Chu Qingyan sighed softly in her heart. This was all caused by Big Ice Cube. He had pestered her so much last night that she had no choice but to send Kangkang to the small hall. She had been tormented too much and slept late this morning. When Kangkang woke up and couldn't find her, he started to be unhappy. Alright, I'll listen to you, little darling. Alright, then Bao Bao will reluctantly believe you this time. He was really flexible. Chu Qingyan smiled. So reluctant? Little Kangkang raised his chin slightly and snorted softly. Imperial Mother, your trust in Bao Bao has already dropped to the bottom. Chu Qingyan laughed and shook her head. This child was so smart, she didn't know who he learned it from. She took the cloth from Jasper's hand and carefully wiped his sweat. After a while, Little Kangkang remembered that he had neglected his grandfather. He immediately jumped off his Imperial Mother's lap and ran over. Grandfather, grandfather, let's go fly high. Father Chu's glass heart had already shattered. Grandfather is unhappy. Grandfather also wants to run away from home. Little Kangkang raised his head and asked innocently. He then took off his small cloth bag and water bottle and handed them over. Then these are for you. These are essential for traveling and running away from home. Chu Machin's father choked and pouted. Then if Grandpa runs away from home, will Kangkang leave with him? Little Kangkang tilted his head and thought for a while before nodding mysteriously. Bao Bao can accompany you to the Imperial Garden. Seeing the adult and child planning their plan to leave home as if no one else was around, Chu Qingyan's lips twitched. They were so loud, what was there to be mysterious about? Father Chu felt that he had been comforted and smiled in satisfaction. Alright, then grandfather will bring you to fly high. Little Kangkang immediately opened his arms and after being picked up, he sat on his grandfather's shoulder with familiarity. He turned his head and said to his Imperial Mother in joy, Bao Bao is going to play. See you later, Imperial Mother. The two disappeared on the spot after speaking. Huo Ling and the others immediately chased after them. Old Master, slow down, slow down. Chapter 1530. As Chu Qingyan watched the big and small group leave, she couldn't help but laugh. She stood up and walked out of the palace hall. The autumn air outside was refreshing, and the maple leaves were bright red. It was a pleasant sight. Time really flies. It's another autumn. A golden leaf fell in front of her. She reached out to catch it and sighed softly. Xining went to take care of Kong Kong, so there were only Jasper and Xiao Anzi by her side. Xiao Anzi smiled and said, "Yes, it won't be long before snow covers the entire capital. The little prince will be able to build snowmen to play with." Chu Qingyan wanted to facepalm. These people seemed to have their hearts set on Kong Kong. However, she had to admit that Kong Kong had inherited his father's appearance. He already had a devilish appearance at such a young age. In addition, he was good at acting spoiled and cute. He was simply popular with both the old and the young. Not only in the palace, but even when he attended court with Big Ice Cube, he could do whatever he wanted. Perhaps he was blessed by the heavens. There were too many people who doted on him, so she often had to play the bad guy, afraid that he would go astray. Fortunately, her son's IQ and EQ were very high. He had never become arrogant because he was spoiled. Moreover, she didn't have to worry about whether he would be bullied when he went out. It was good enough that he didn't tease others. The autumn wind blew. Chu Qingyan looked at the setting sun in the distance. The afterglow was faint, and the dim yellow light easily pulled people into memories. She wondered how Yen Luo and Jing Jing were doing. Last winter, Ethereal suddenly received a letter from Yen Luo. He left in a hurry, saying that someone was critically ill. As for who it was, the letter didn't specify. Until now, there was still no news of them. It was very worrying, especially Xiao Ho. He had lost a lot of weight compared to before. Although he didn't say it, everyone could see that he was very worried. She wanted to help, but the people she sent out only said, "There's no news." This matter could only be kept in her heart. At this moment, Jasper received a letter. "Mistress, Lady Water Spirit has received a letter from Lady Ethereal." Chu Qingyan was stunned. It was too unexpected. She couldn't wait to take it. She took a deep breath before opening the envelope. After hurriedly reading the words on it, she exhaled heavily. Her whole body relaxed, and the corner of her mouth raised into a thick smile. They were all coming back. What a joyous occasion. However, there had been one joyous event after another recently. Sima Jun and Ji Linyang entered the palace together with Hua Xiuli and Lin Fengyi. The entire palace instantly became lively. After receiving the news, Chu Qingyan couldn't sit still. From time to time, she would look out of the hall. Compared to him, Xiao Su was calmer. "You'll see her sooner or later. Don't worry." Little Ankang, who was sitting at the side playing with the 9 rings in his imperial father's arms, tilted his head and asked, "Imperial father, are Sima Yi and Ji Susu coming?" Chu Qingyan was a little surprised. Kong Kong still remembers Aunt Sima and Uncle Ji. She remembered that when Kong Kong was 1 year old, Sima and Ji Linyang had just entered the palace and sent many gifts. It had been more than a year since then. Little Ankang looked at his imperial mother with disdain. "Imperial mother, you're so stupid. Bao Bao is still very young and doesn't have amnesia yet." Chu Qingyan choked. It wasn't necessarily a good thing for a child to mature early. For example, he could choke to death at any moment. At this moment, someone had already reported that Sima and the others were about to arrive. Chu Qingyan immediately stood up and walked to the door. At this moment, Xiao Su raised his hand to help his son solve the most difficult problem. His son immediately looked up with starry eyes and said in admiration, "Imperial father, you're so amazing. Your imperial mother asked Mu Lin to do this. So who's better?" Xiao Su looked at his son calmly. Little Ankang's eyes lit up. Imperial mother is better. Xiao Su smiled. So will you still say that your imperial mother is stupid in the future? Little Ankang immediately shook his head. Imperial mother is so smart and amazing. She's not stupid at all. Only then did Xiao Su raise his hand to pat his son's head in satisfaction. That's right, your imperial mother is very smart and amazing. She only stayed in the palace and hid her intelligence because she wanted to accompany imperial father and you. She sacrificed a lot for us, so you can't make your imperial mother sad in the future. You have to be filial to her and protect her. Little Ankang sniffled. Imperial mother is good. Bao Bao wants to hug imperial mother. Xiao Su's eyes curved as he placed his son on the ground. Watching him walk over with his short legs to look for the little fellow, the corners of his mouth rose. Mu Ling, who was standing at the side, was already used to this master who had transformed into a black-bellied wife-protecting maniac. At this moment, a soft body pounced at her feet. Imperial mother, Bao Bao will protect you. Bao Bao is amazing. Chu Qingyan, who was wholeheartedly outside, did not notice that her big ice block had raised her image in her son's heart by an inch. Chu Qingyan was already used to her son's sudden confession. She thought that her son's flirting skills were natural and that he would harm many girls in the future. However, she did not know that her big ice block had done so much for her behind her back. She had misunderstood. Chu Qingyan carried her son and pinched his chubby little face. I know. Our Kangkang is a little man now. Little Ankang left a watermark on her face and giggled. With that, he came over. I already told you that I don't like veils. Aren't you afraid that I'll get a rash from covering it? Sima Jun was the first to grumble. Wife, it's late autumn now. Summer has already passed, Ji Linyang replied unhurriedly. You vinegar jar. Wife is so good at praising me. Sima Jun was dumbfounded, but then she laughed for some reason. She shook her head and stepped into the hall. She took off her veil and smiled sweetly. Qing Yan, long time no see. Sima Jun went forward and gave him a bear hug. Ji Linyang cupped his hands at the two of them. I've made a fool of myself. Xiao Su nodded slightly at him and gestured for him to take a seat. Chu Qingyan hugged him back and laughed. You two are so close. Long time no see. It's been more than a year. It's not easy to see each other again. Sima Jun sighed. Chu Qingyan winked at her and teased, who knows where you went during your honeymoon month? You still have the cheek to mention it. Sima Jun blushed. What are you talking about? It was rare to see this queen behave like a little girl. Chu Qingyan was about to tease her more when a voice sounded. Sima Yi. Sima Jun lowered her head and saw the little one that she had neglected. Her eyes lit up and she immediately squatted down. What a cute baby. This must be Kangkang. Little Ankang nodded solemnly. This baby's nickname is Ankang, and his full name is Xiao Huichen. Sima Yi, please take care of me. Wow, so cute. I really want to carry him home. Sima Jun's eyes lit up. Little Ankang thought for a moment and said seriously, you have to discuss this with my father and mother. But if you can marry me, we can see each other every day. Chu Qingyan's mouth twitched. No one could beat his flirting skills. Ji Linyang's face darkened. He had just arrived and was already being poached. Chapter 1531. Sima Yi, what do you think? Xiao and Kang did not notice everyone's reaction at all. He even pulled Sima Jun and asked very innocently. Sima Jun felt that she had been completely melted by this cute little boy. She wanted nothing more than to hug him and ravage him. However, just as she stretched out her hand, it was grabbed by a familiar pair of large hands. Then, she turned around and was pulled into a wide and strong embrace. Before she could say anything, she heard a voice above her head that was filled with possessiveness. Xiao Bao, I'm sorry, but your Aunt Sima is already taken. You should find someone else. Ji Linyang knew that Xiao Kang was still young, so he spoke much more gently. Xiao Kang blinked and looked at Ji Susu. He pouted. Alright, then if Sima Yi still wants to marry us in the future, tell Bao Bao. So this Xiao Bao was still thinking about his wife. Ji Linyang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. At this time, the person in his arms was still cheering for Xiao Bao. Kang Kang, well said. Ji Linyang, I'm telling you, if you dare to bully me, I'll find someone else in a minute. This big and small pair was really a headache. At this time, a voice sounded. Yo, Kang Kang, didn't you say that you wanted to marry me? Why did you change your mind so quickly? With that, Hua Xiao and Lin Fengyi appeared in the hall together. Xiao Kang smiled. Hua Yi, Lin Susu. Children have to be polite. So after greeting them, Xiao Kang answered Hua Yi's question. It doesn't matter. You came to the palace to massage my mother's legs, and Sima Yi came to massage my mother's shoulders. So, both of you came. Pfft, Sima Jun was in disbelief. Hua Xiao pounced into her miser's arms. What the hell, you actually want to marry us to be your mother's palace maids? Madam, you're so hurtful. Chu Qingyan, who was at the side, originally thought that her son was no longer as obedient as his mother. She didn't expect him to have such an idea. She immediately felt that she didn't raise this kid for nothing. At this time, Xiao Kang turned to look at his mother. Did Bao Bao say something wrong? The two Yi looked very sad. Lin Fengyi laughed and replied, they thought that you were attracted to their beauty, but the reality is so harsh. Xiao Su picked up his son and tapped his cheek. Well done. Being praised by his father, Kang clapped his hands and cheered. Chu Qingyan glared at Big Ice Cube. Don't push your luck. Don't listen to Kang Kang's nonsense. Come, I've already ordered people to set up a banquet in the Imperial Garden. Everyone can enjoy the flowers while drinking. Chu Qingyan called out. The sky is high, the clouds are light, and the autumn wind is blowing gently. It's a good time to drink wine and admire chrysanthemums. Lin Fengyi smiled faintly, his eyes filled with joy. Xiao Su nodded and said to his friend, I know you love flowers the most. Black chrysanthemum and purple dragon crouching snow have both bloomed. Everyone, please move. Hearing this, Lin Fengyi was in high spirits. He pulled his fiancée and immediately left the palace. Sima Jun and the others were also very curious. The best flowers in the world were probably all in the Imperial Garden. They were going to feast their eyes today. Thus, the group of people headed towards the Imperial Garden in a grandiose manner. The gardeners in the Imperial Garden had already received the news, and the chrysanthemums were already placed in the right places. Cinnabar Red Frost, Jade Phoenix, Sea of Snow, Black Ink, Fragrant Mountain Young Phoenix. They were colorful and fragrant, and had a myriad of bearings. Some were clustered in groups of 3 or 5, and some were outshone by themselves. It was truly beautiful and very lovable. The banquet was set in the center of the garden. It could be said that they were sitting in a sea of flowers. No wonder so many people like to be the emperor. It's a different feeling to sit on the wonders of the world. Sima Jun drank a mouthful of wine and took a deep breath. The fragrance of flowers lingered in the air, and he felt that the turbid air in his chest had already dissipated. His mouth and nose were filled with the light fragrance of flowers, making him feel relaxed and happy. The sky was high, the clouds were white, the flowers were fragrant, the scenery was beautiful, and the wine was good. It was simply the most beautiful moment in the world. Chu Qingyan shook her head and said, there's no such thing as free enjoyment in this world. This country has endless worries, and the people have endless things to do. Thus, it's better to have nothing to do. That's true. At least we can be as free as the fish in the sea, and as free as the birds in the sky. You can only look around these high walls and sigh. Hua Xiaoli raised her wine cup and gave her a sympathetic look. Chu Qingyan blinked and suddenly smiled mysteriously. That's not certain. Sima Jun and Hua Xiaoli looked at each other. There was something fishy. The two of them immediately came over. Is there something you're hiding from us? Chu Qingyan chuckled and shook her finger. Heaven's secrets cannot be revealed. Tisk, after following that person of yours, your mouth has become even tighter. Hua Xiaoli ridiculed. Sima Jun nodded in agreement. That's right. You don't treat us as friends at all. Knowing that they were trying to provoke her, Chu Qingyan only smiled and did not say anything. She leisurely drank her wine and was very satisfied. When Ji Linyang heard their conversation, he turned to look at Xiao Su. Do you have other plans? Before Xiao Su could answer, Lin Fengyi smiled and said, this person is very smart. He has already started to leave everything to others. So, just watch. Xiao Su smiled when he heard this. After being tied down for so many years, it's time to relax. Everyone present was smart and understood at once. At this moment, Xiao Ankang could not sit still after eating for a while. When he saw a butterfly flying among the flowers, he climbed down from his chair and chased after it. When Chu Qingyan saw this, she let Jin Xan follow. Hence, Xiao Ankang huffed and puffed in front of the butterfly, while Jin Xan followed closely behind. For the sake of the banquet, the imperial garden was cleared. The palace maids and eunuchs were all waiting by the banquet. The guards were stationed outside, so there were only a few gardeners taking care of the flowers and plants in the garden. Jin Xian stood 3 to 5 steps away from his little master and looked after him. At this moment, Xiao Ankang plucked a blade of grass and turned to smile at him cutely. Jin Xian, Su, look, the grass is so long. Jin Xian's firm chin softened at Xiao Ankang's words. He nodded at him. It is very long, even longer than your finger. Xiao Ankang chuckled. Bao Bao will pick a beautiful flower for you, Su, and then you can give it to Xining Yi. Because his mother had once told him that Xining Yi and Jin Xian would live together in the future, just like his mother and father. Children's words were the most sincere blessings. Jin Xian's eyes seemed to soften. Okay, you will definitely be very happy to Xining Yi. Xiao Ankang seemed to be encouraged and jumped around the flowers even more happily. However, at this warm and cozy moment, 2 gardeners who were tending to the flowers and plants looked at each other, and then slowly moved towards them, a strange look flashing in their eyes. Chapter 1532. Just as Jin Xian was looking at his little master gently with his hands behind his back, a figure appeared 3 steps away from him with his back facing the sun, blocking him from the little master. The head with the conical bamboo hat was lowered, making it impossible to see his face. Relying on the sharp judgment of a martial artist, Jin Xian calmly placed his hand on his waist, his expression still the same as usual. Just as he was about to ask this person to move aside, the person who had his head lowered suddenly raised his head, his eyes filled with excitement. Young sect master, I've finally found you. This hoarse voice, as well as those slightly red eyes, revealed the person's emotions. His entire body was trembling with excitement. Jin Xian narrowed his eyes because of these words, who are you? I don't understand what you're talking about, young sect master, get out of the way. Young sect master, from North Korea to Sichuan, we have been searching for you for 10 whole years. You are the hope of the Sun clan, the successor of the Sun Flame sect. Young sect master, come home with me. The old man in his 50s said anxiously as tears streamed down his face. However, Jin Xian was not moved by his words, and looked at him indifferently. You have no evidence, why should I believe you? The old man was stunned, as if his acupoints had been pressed. Young sect master, have you forgotten? Don't you remember the blood feud? Jin Xian remained unmoved. I don't know what you're talking about. If you don't move aside now, don't blame me for being impolite. The old man looked as if he had been struck by lightning, but he quickly revealed a puzzled expression, frowning as he stared at Jin Xian. At this moment, another gardener moved to Xiao and Kang's side and said fiercely, Elder Zhua, I think young sect master has already smoothed out his edges and corners outside, and doesn't want to go back and revive the Sun clan. It's useless for you to say this to him, just do it. With that, the middle-aged man bent down to carry little Nkong. At this moment, little Nkong had no idea that danger was approaching and looked at everyone blankly. At this moment, a slender figure rushed over and knocked the middle-aged man away. The two of them fell together. Jean Xian's heart finally relaxed. If it wasn't for the fact that the two of them didn't have any killing intent when they approached, with his many years of experience, he wouldn't have let them get close to him so easily. But soon, his heart was in his mouth again. He quickly pulled out his sword and shouted, "Guards, there's an assassin." Then, he decisively kicked the old man away and appeared beside the middle-aged man in the blink of an eye. He blocked the hand that was about to attack Xining and pulled her up. Then, he pushed her towards Nkong and said, "Protect the little master." Then, he charged towards the two people with his sword. As soon as there was a commotion, the guards from all directions rushed over. At this moment, they surrounded the two people together with Jean Xian. The old man and the middle-aged man did not expect the guards of the Sichuan palace to arrive so quickly. The two of them threw away the bamboo hats on their faces and fought with the guards with their backs facing each other. Xiao Su, Chu Qingyan and the rest rushed over. Xiao Su narrowed his eyes and said coldly, "Keep them alive." "Yes." At this moment, Chu Qingyan hurried to her son and asked nervously, "Kong Kong, are you hurt?" Nkong opened his arms and moved from Xining's arms into his mother's arms. He shook his head obediently and did not look frightened at all. He kissed his mother's face and said like a little adult, "Bao Bao is fine." Xining and Yi chased away the bad guys. Chu Qingyan roughly understood the situation when she heard this. She pulled Xining over and checked her left and right. When she found that she was not injured, she heaved a sigh of relief and said gratefully, "Xining, thank you for protecting Kong Kong." Xining hurriedly waved her hands and said, "This is what this servant should do." "Master, you're too kind to this servant." Nkong reached out and hugged Xining's face, leaving behind a mouthful of saliva. Then, he returned to his mother's arms and giggled. Xining, who had rushed over recklessly just now and was now a little scared, completely relaxed because of this kiss. The little master was really like a fairy child who had descended from the heavens, cute and sensible. Xiao Su looked at his son who was completely unaffected, then turned his attention back to the battle. Meanwhile, Sima Jun and Ji Linyang, who enjoyed watching the show, were munching on melon seeds as they watched from the side. Sima Jun and Ji Linyang would occasionally comment on the martial arts of the combatants. If one didn't know better, they would have thought that they were here to watch a show. Not long after, the people were subdued. "Who are you people? Why are you harming my son?" Looking at the two people who were kneeling in front of him, Xiao Su's voice was slightly low. The old man raised his head. He was in a more sorry state than before, but he straightened his back and said with a firm expression, "I am Zhua Haotian, an elder of the Sun Blaze sect of the North Korean Sun clan. This is Choi Mingxiue, a guardian of the Sun Blaze sect. We are not here to harm the Sichuan royal family. We are here to find someone in the palace. North Korea. Sun clan. Sun Blaze sect." Everyone looked at each other. Most of them were confused, but Sima Jun and Ji Linyang looked at each other in surprise. Xiao Su raised his eyebrows. "Who?" At this moment, the old man turned to look at Jean Xian, who had been silent after putting away his sword. His tone became agitated. "We are looking for our Sun Blaze sect's young sect master, Murong Yunxian, who is also the commander of your Sichuan royal guards, Jean Xian." This turn of events was too sudden, to the extent that those who were munching on melon seeds and those who were commenting all fell silent. Almost everyone had an even bigger question mark above their heads. "You're saying that Jean Xian is your young sect master?" Chu Qingyan was shocked. What was this? She was dumbfounded. "Young sect master, quickly tell them who you are." Elder Zhuo looked at Jean Xian expectantly. Everyone simultaneously turned to look at Jin Xian. However, the person in question was calmer than anyone else. He glanced at the two people who were even more agitated because of his gaze. His voice was very calm. "I don't know you." As soon as he said this, Elder Zhuo trembled and looked at him in disbelief. Meanwhile, Enforcer Chui's suppressed anger exploded. "Young sect master. It's fine if you don't know us. After all, you were only 6 years old when you left. But you can't forget the Sun Clan and the Sun Blaze sect. How can you face your mother like this?" His silent eyes moved. Jin Xian pursed his lips. "I don't understand what you're saying, and I don't want to understand." The situation suddenly became tense. Xiao Su's gaze swept over Elder Zhuo, Enforcer Chui, and Jin Xian. Then he said in a low voice, "Take these two away first. The rest of you, follow me to Songyu Hall." The group left the Imperial Garden. On the way, they met Xiao Yao and Xiao Ho, who were escorting an old woman. "The two of us just caught a suspicious person outside the palace and found out a lot of things. It seems to be related to Imperial sister-in-law's Jin Xian, so we brought her into the palace," Xiao Yao said. "What a coincidence. We caught two here too," Lin Fengyi said in surprise. "Take them away together. The two of you come with me too." Xiao Su called out to his two brothers and walked forward. Xiao Yao and Xiao Ho looked at each other. Was there going to be a good show? "Let's go." As expected, they were a bunch of people who didn't mind watching a show. Chapter 1533. After a while, everyone sat down in Songyu Hall. The palace maid served them tea and left. The atmosphere in the hall was a little tense. The chief eunuch who was in charge of the flower show knelt in the hall and kowtowed while trembling. "These two are gardeners that I picked out from the common people. They have been in the palace for 2 or 3 months and have always been dutiful. I didn't expect that they would commit such a heinous crime. It's my fault for not being strict enough and causing the little prince to be frightened. I'm guilty." The truth of how the two had sneaked into the palace was also revealed. No one expected them to be so calm. When they found out that the palace was recruiting gardeners, they killed the original owner and replaced him. Their acting skills were so good that no one saw through them. Xiao Su raised his hand and ordered someone to take him away for punishment. At this moment, Xiao Su looked up at Jin Xian. "Tell me about what happened in the garden." Jin Xian nodded and recounted everything that had happened in the garden. He did not add any details, including what he said. Everyone was digesting the shock of this incident. "What's the background of this North Korea? I've been doing business for so many years, but I've never heard of it." Hua Xiuli was the first to ask. At this moment, Ji Linyang spoke up. "It's a coincidence. Jun Yao and I passed by this North Korea a few years ago, but we only stayed at the border for a few days before leaving. We only know that this country is different from other countries. Their citizens believe in religion. Although it's a country, it's divided into two, the sun and moon races. The two people who came today should be from the sun race. To be able to become an elder and a protector, they must have a high status in the race." Sima Jun continued from where Ji Linyang had left off. "The biggest religion of the sun race is the Sun Flame sect, which faces the sun and worships martial arts. The moon race is the moon sect, which faces the moon and worships culture and education. The sun and moon represent light, which is also the origin of North Korea's name. This country is hidden in the highest mountain forest in the south. It's difficult to enter and leave, and has always been a legend. If it weren't for Lan Zhuang's business in the south a few years ago, we wouldn't have entered by accident. However, we only touched the borders of their country. What I said just now is the information Lan Zhuang collected. Lan Manor had branches all over the world. It was an underground business, and there were all sorts of mermaids and people there. Any news could be gathered. No one had expected that the two people they had caught today would have such a high status, and that such a large country was involved. What was even more unexpected was that their target was actually Jin Xian. I heard that when Jin Xian was saved by sister-in-law, he had already lost his memories of the past. If what they said is true, it's not impossible. However, I'm afraid that these people will take advantage of the situation and fabricate a groundless story to achieve an unspeakable secret. Xiao Ho muttered to himself for a moment before voicing his opinion. Now that imperial sister-in-law was the empress of the country and imperial brother doted on her so much, the people around her were impregnable. Those who had bad intentions had no way of getting in and could only use the people around her. The woman we caught is also of the rank of an elder. Although we managed to pry some information out of her, it still feels strange. We still have to be careful. Chu Qingyan looked at Jin Xian in front of her. His posture was tall and straight, and he was already able to hold his own. He was no longer the thin and weak youth from before. She used a gentle tone to ask for his opinion. Jin Xian, what do you think? Jin Xian raised his head with a serious expression and expressed his position without hesitation. Whether this matter is true or not, this subordinate feels that it has nothing to do with this subordinate. This subordinate only wants to stay by master and little master's side, to stay in Sichuan. Sun Clan. Sun Flame Sect. It had nothing to do with him at all. Since Jin Xian had already expressed his position, no one asked any more questions. Chu Qingyan looked at him deeply and fell into deep thought. The chrysanthemum viewing banquet ended in a hurry because of this matter, and because they had to thoroughly investigate whether there were any remaining accomplices, Xiao Su ordered the banquet to be held elsewhere. After everyone left, Chu Qingyan called out to Jin Xian. The two of them walked to the parasol tree in the courtyard and stood still. Jin Xian, those people might know about your background. Why do you look like you don't care at all? Chu Qingyan turned around and asked with a puzzled gaze. To be honest, all these years, she had always wanted to help him find his roots, but he couldn't remember anything and had nowhere to find it. She had tried her best to give him the warmth of his home, but now that there was a clue, he looked like it had nothing to do with him. It really made her very puzzled. Jin Xian was silent for a while before lifting his gaze. Master, to this subordinate, the past is already in the past. Sichuan is this subordinate's home, and master, little master and everyone else are this subordinate's family. This subordinate doesn't want to go back to the past. Didn't master say that contentment is happiness? This subordinate likes the current life very much and doesn't want to break this peace and happiness because of some groundless matters. These words moved her very much. Usually, Jin Xian was a man of few words and didn't like to show his emotions, preferring to use actions to express himself. She didn't expect him to say such touching words. And she had always treated him as her own little brother, feeling gratified that a little brother had grown up in the family. But blood relations, this was something that others couldn't make up for. An idea gradually formed in her heart and her tone suddenly became serious. Jin Xian, tell me, have you already recovered your memories? Jin Xian was startled. He didn't expect his master to be so powerful. He didn't say anything, but she guessed it. Master, you, this subordinate. He pursed his lips and finally admitted defeat under his master's clear and solemn gaze. In a low voice, he admitted, yes, 2 years ago, this subordinate already remembered. Although her guess was confirmed, she was still very shocked. Then why didn't you tell us? We can help you find your family. Jin Xian smiled bitterly. Those are some bad memories, it's better not to mention them. It was rare to see such a desolate expression on his face. Chu Qingyan's heart clenched. Could it be that what those people said was true? Master, did you know? Jin Xian raised his head and a trace of grief flashed through his eyes. The Sun clan and the Yu clan have always been at odds, and my father let down my mother by favoring his concubine and neglecting his wife. He didn't expect that woman to be from the Yu clan and brought disaster to the family. My mother died in order to protect me. I was brought out by my master and wandered all the way to Sichuan, but the Yu clan didn't let me go and chased me all the way. When I met master, my master also died in order to protect me. I was seriously injured at that time and was unconscious on the road before being taken away by those Taoists. When I woke up, I had already forgotten everything. Jin Xan clenched his fists, his eyes slightly red as he said hatefully, I've never thought of going back. They bullied my mother, so why should I go back and revive the Sun Blaze sect? If the Sun Blaze sect was destroyed, I would be even happier. Chapter 1534. She had never seen Jin Xian in such pain, grief, and indignation, but it made her feel even more pity for him. Hearing these words, Chu Qingyan wanted nothing more than to raze the Sun Blaze sect to the ground. Truly too hateful. Living on the edge of life and death from a young age, suffering all kinds of hardships, and he was only a child of a few years old. Her heart burned with rage. Jin Xian, I'll avenge you. Jin Xian raised his head in shock, Master, what did you say? Jin Xian, whether or not you're going back to be the young sect master is one thing, but don't you want to avenge your mother and master? You've suffered all kinds of hardships, but those culprits are still roaming free. Can you live in peace for the rest of your life? Even if you can swallow this, I can't. Chu Qingyan said with righteous indignation. The aura that had been hidden under the peaceful and warm atmosphere for the past 2 years suddenly burst forth, making people unable to look straight at her. Jin Xian looked at the master in front of him, a brief struggle flashing through his eyes. Mother and master won't let me take revenge. He remembered his mother lying in a pool of blood, holding his hand and saying, Xian, promise mother. Live on, don't hate, don't take revenge. Leave this place far away, don't come back, don't come back. That day, master pushed him away and roared, go. Go far away. Live on well. They didn't let him go back, and told him to go far away. So when he recalled everything, he was in so much pain that he wished he was dead, but he couldn't personally kill those enemies. Because he promised his mother and master to let go of his hatred and not take revenge, he could only grit his teeth and bear it silently. The resentment lasted for a long time, but he couldn't let it go. Chu Qingyan could understand. Her eyes brightened, Jin Xian, do you know why your mother and master said that? Jin Xian shook his head. Because you were still young back then and didn't even have the ability to protect yourself. They were afraid that you wouldn't be able to survive. They were afraid that you would be blinded by hatred. They were even more afraid that you would throw an egg at a rock and fail to live up to their painstaking efforts to protect you. At this point, Chu Qingyan's expression turned cold. However, things are different now. You are no longer alone. You have me and everyone else. If you get bullied or hurt, you can fight back. You don't have to be so cautious. We will always be behind you. Even if the sky falls, we will be there to help you. Although his words were soft, they were forceful and convincing from the bottom of his heart. Master. Jin Xian's pupils shrank and his eyes turned red. So, Chu Qingyan looked into his eyes and said word by word, you should ask yourself again before you make a decision. I'm not asking you to take revenge. I don't want you to live with regrets for the rest of your life. No matter what decision you make, I'll support you. She knew Jin Xian. Although he was calm and self-disciplined, he valued relationships very much. Otherwise, he would not have sworn to follow her until now just because she had done him a favor. Because of a sentence from the ice cube, he went to the court and became an official, just to be able to help her one day. And because she was in danger, he resolutely gave up the power and wealth at his fingertips. How could such a person who had a clear distinction between love and hate swallow his anger? If it weren't for his mother and master's last words, she believed that when he remembered the truth, he would have impatiently raised his sword to take revenge. To hate but not be able to take revenge, to have bitterness that was hard to say. For a man with courage, that was a painful torment. So she cut off all his worries and became his backing. She let him make a decision from his heart again. In a person's life, the most painful thing was to have no choice and not be able to choose to accept the injustice. Master had already said this. If he continued to be a coward, he would be letting down his mother and master's sufferings. Jin Xian raised his head. His voice was sonorous and powerful. Gritting his teeth, he said, Master, I want revenge. I want to seek justice for myself. I want to kill my enemies. In these 2 years, 600 days and nights, he couldn't forget that his mother couldn't even die in peace. He couldn't forget that knife that had slashed at his master. Every night when he dreamt, he could only grieve alone. He couldn't sleep at night. He wanted to go back all the time and personally send those enemies to the Yellow Springs. All right. Chu Qingyan nodded solemnly. Not long later, everyone once again gathered at Songyu Hall. This time, Elder Zhua and the other 2 were also brought over. They were untied and given a seat by Chu Qingyan. Young sect master, you've finally admitted your identity. The heavens have opened their eyes. When Elder Zhua heard the news, he was overjoyed. Wrinkles appeared on his face as he smiled. Then young sect master, quickly come back with us to inherit the throne. Protector Chui's previous unfriendliness was swept away, and he said in an urgent tone. The other woman was called Gui Xiangjuan. She was called Elder Gui. At this time, she was also excited. Yes, this way, the Yu clan won't dare to harass us anymore. We can also regain our past prosperity. Let's see if they dare to invade our territory in the future. Chu Qingyan glanced at the 3 people and smiled. There's no hurry. Today's events were too sudden. Jin Xin has been with us for so many years. He probably won't be back for a long time. Therefore, we plan to keep him for a few more days and hold a farewell banquet to send him off. That won't do. We have to go back as soon as possible. After the joy passed, Elder Zhua immediately regained his dignity in the clan and waved his hand mercilessly. Xiao Su smiled coldly. It's not up to you to decide. Your Majesty Xishuan, this is our North Korea's matter. Although you're the ruler of a country, you can't interfere with us. Elder Gui raised her chin slightly and said righteously. At this time, Xiao Yao closed his folding fan and touched his chin. Didn't you say that you've been looking for Jin Xin for 10 years? That means you've been bullied by the Yu clan for 10 years. It's been so long. 1 or 2 more days won't make a difference. Why are you in such a hurry? Unless what? Elder Zhua's eyebrows twitched. Xiao Yao chuckled, then paused. His tone was slightly cold. Unless you're hiding something from us. What you said before was not the truth. Elder Zhua and the others were stunned. It seemed that they had underestimated these people. Elder Zhua lowered his head. A dark light flashed in his eyes, but he smiled. How is that possible? Since you can't bear to part with our young sect master, then we'll listen to him. He can stay as long as he wants. We're not in a hurry. In an instant, they changed their tone. Compared to their previous overbearing attitude, they were now extremely respectful. Jin Xin wasn't the only one who felt that something was wrong. Everyone present was good at scheming. How could they not see that there was something fishy going on? In that case, it seems that this king has gauged the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. Xiao Yao casually apologized. Meanwhile, Elder Zhua and the others responded with a fake smile. Jin Xin glanced at his master. After receiving the message, he turned his head and said, then we'll stay for 3 more days. But let me say this first. I'm only going back to take a look. I'm not going to inherit the position of sect master. Elder Zhua and the others nodded. They would trick him to go back first. Once he returned to the Ri clan, it would no longer be up to him. Chapter 1535. Elder Zhua and the others had changed their faces so quickly that Chu Qingyan was still worried. After returning to Yansu Palace, Chu Qingyan sat in her room and pondered for a long time. Until Xiao Su returned. What's wrong? Sitting here alone in a daze? Where's Kang? Xiao Su sat down beside her and put his hand on her shoulder, leaning her towards him. She then returned to her senses and leaned her head on his shoulder, closing her tired eyes. I was thinking about something just now, so I was a little distracted. Kang is with Dad and Mom. What are you thinking about? Xiao Su touched her face and found that her body was a little cold, so he pulled her into his arms and warmed her with his body temperature. Chu Qingyan opened her eyes and was a little hesitant. Xiao Su saw her hesitation and squeezed her hand. With a slightly serious expression, he said, "Is there anything that I can't know? Maybe it's better to tell me so that I can share some of your burden." She rubbed his chin and acted like a little girl. "I'm just afraid that my imagination will run wild and cause you trouble." Xiao Su straightened her body and held her shoulders tightly with both hands. His expression was even more serious than before. There shouldn't be any secrets between husband and wife, let alone being afraid of causing each other trouble. Isn't this what you said before? Isn't there always trouble between the two of us? Do we still need to treat each other like outsiders? Feeling that the big ice cube was a little angry, she was a little annoyed. Why did she say something like that just now? She leaned forward and wrapped her arms around his neck. Pressing her face against the side of his face, she said coquettishly, "Aren't I confused because I'm too concerned? Don't be so calculative with me. When have I ever been calculative with you? If it were me, you would have thrown a tantrum with me a long time ago. You only allow the state officials to set fires, but not the common people." Xiao Su raised his hand and tapped her nose lightly, his tone helpless and doting. She wanted to say that she didn't. But when she thought about it, she realized that she was in the wrong. She stuck out her tongue. After that, she took the initiative to reveal the contents of her conversation with Jean Xin today. Then, she commented, "I always feel that the three of them don't act in a straightforward manner at all. That protector Cui is eccentric, and that elder Gui is gloomy. Although that elder Zhuo looks like an elder, I always feel that something is wrong. I don't know if I'm overthinking it." Xiao Su stroked her long hair, his expression unchanged. "You think there's something wrong with them?" "Yes. I'm thinking that if they brought Jean Xin back, it might not be as simple as just inheriting a clan." She paused and organized her words before continuing. Jean Xin said that the Sun Blaze sect was heavily damaged by the Dim Moon sect in his father's hands. That was 10 years ago. But thinking about it carefully, if they really wanted to let Jean Xin inherit it, they wouldn't have waited until now. I keep feeling that they're hiding something from us. The little fellow's intuition had always been very accurate. In addition, when he was observing these people, he also noticed some problems. It was just that North Korea was not within the fierce cavalry's territory, so he did not know much about the situation in this country. After pondering for a moment, he said, "Did you encourage Jean Xin to change his mind and decide to return to North Korea?" She was stunned, then nodded. "I don't want him to feel regret when he thinks about it for the rest of his life." Xiao Su smiled. This was her style. She had always been protective. "Then what do you plan to do?" "Originally, I planned to hand the fierce cavalry to Jean Xin, then ask you to let Turan lead a team back with him. But now, what do you think now?" Seeing that she was hesitating, Xiao Su pretended to be indifferent and led her to continue speaking. Chu Qingyan looked up, as if she had made a decision. She looked into his eyes and said, "Now, I want to go back with him. If I don't see it for myself, I won't be at ease." When she finished speaking, Xiao Su's movements suddenly paused. His gaze instantly turned cold as he looked back at her. "Have you ever thought about whether I'll be at ease?" Knowing that he would react like this, Chu Qingyan hugged him tightly. She blinked and said, "I won't let myself be in any danger." Xiao Su raised a brow. "There's no use acting cute. But we've all seen how much Jean Xin has done in the past 6 years. Now that he's in such a big situation, I can't just stand by and watch. He has sacrificed too much for me, and he's going to marry my Xining. To me, he's like my little brother, and I want to do something for him." Chu Qingyan gave up acting cute and told him her thoughts seriously. She knew that the big ice block was a reasonable person. Of course, he was reasonable to everyone except her. Seeing that the little girl was so serious after being fooled by him, Xiao Su couldn't help but laugh. Chu Qingyan was dumbfounded. She was trying so hard to reason with him and analyze the situation, but he was laughing. Was she too serious, or were they not on the same channel? Xiao Su raised his hand and pinched her cheek. He shook his head and laughed. Why didn't you ask for my help? You want me to go with you? Her eyes brightened slightly, but she seemed to have thought of something, and the light in her eyes dimmed. If it was in the past, I would definitely drag you along. But now, you have so many things to do. If you really go with me, won't I become a demon concubine that the whole world spits at me and spits at me? I finally got rid of this infamy, and now I have to tell them that yes, you're right, I'm a disaster. I won't do it. The little girl in front of him looked so cute when she was angry. Xiao Su couldn't help but steal a kiss before saying, even if you want to be an evil concubine, I'm afraid you won't have the chance. What do you mean? She was dizzy from his kiss and didn't react for a while. Evil concubine, your husband has to be the emperor. Xiao Su smiled mysteriously. Chu Qingyan seemed to have understood something, but her curiosity was piqued by him. Don't mute me, hurry up and say it. Seeing that it was about time, Xiao Su slowly said, before the new year, I was already transferring the men of the fierce cavalry, and I have already delegated the power in my hands. Even if I want to be a hands-off shopkeeper now, it won't be a problem. The fire that had been extinguished in her eyes reignited. She murmured, so what you mean is? The plan from 2 years ago can now be completed. That year when he received the imperial edict from his imperial grandfather, he had thought of passing it to his younger brother. It was a pity that the situation at court was too chaotic, and he was too irresponsible. So he came up with this plan. Once everything settled down, he would retire. Then after your test, which imperial brother will take over? She blinked her large eyes and curiously leaned forward. Xiao Su smiled, guess. Chapter 1536. There were only 2 candidates, and the big ice cube wanted her to guess. If it's not Xiao Yao, then it's Xiao Ho. I'm not guessing. She stuck her tongue out at him. In the end, she didn't guess, and he didn't tell her the answer. He said that he didn't want to alert the enemy, and that he would reveal the secret when the time came. She felt that it made sense. After all, there was no such thing as an absolute secret. What if the 2 of them got the news and ran away? They would definitely do something like that. Later, Chu Qingyan told Jean Xian about her trip to North Korea. Jean Xian was very surprised and touched. Her friends who were resting in the palace all rushed over when they heard the news. How can you not bring me along if you're going out to play? Sima Jun sat on a chair with an I'm sticking to you expression. Chu Qingyan raised her brows. I'm not going out to play. It might be dangerous. Dangerous? Sima Jun jumped up, his eyes flashing with a green light. That's great. I haven't done something so exciting in a long time. Chu Qingyan, why do I feel like this guy is the type to go wherever it's dangerous? Shangguang Taning, is this our master? I don't want to admit it. Hua Xiuli, this girl is living so freely, so stylish. Please bring this baby along and fly together. Lin Fengyi, young Master Ji, please keep your wife in check. Don't take my wife away. Ji Linyang received everyone's request for help. He smiled gently at his wife. No matter what decision you make, I'll support you. Remember to bring me along. Sima Jun chuckled. You're the best. Everyone was petrified. Cold dog food was slapped on their faces. Can I refuse to eat it? Chu Qingyan was a bit hesitant about Sima Jun's participation in the fun. After all, it wasn't Sichuan, but a country she didn't understand at all. As if he had seen through her apprehension, Sima Jun instantly regained his usual calmness and gave a profound smile. Qingyan, don't forget my identity. Perhaps your fierce cavalry is better than our blue manor in terms of combat, assassination, and other aspects, but when it comes to being well-informed, we might be better than you. Thus, if you bring us along, you will only benefit from it. Furthermore, if you need a fighter, we will be more than happy to help. Only then did Chu Qingyan remember the original identity of her friend, who had changed her style in the blink of an eye. If she hadn't known her identity in advance, it would have been hard to believe that this was the boss who controlled most of the underground transactions in the world. However, it was also because of this that her identity could be hidden until now. Besides, compared to you guys, we've been to North Korea before, so we know a little about it. Ji Linyang supported his wife. Chu Qingyan shook her head and laughed. I really don't know what to do with you guys. Let's go together then. Hua Xiaoli, who was being suppressed by her family's miser, jumped up when she heard this. I want to go too, I want to go too. Chu Qingyan was about to say something, but Lin Fengyi beat her to it. He said softly and gently, didn't you say that you want to be a beautiful bride? We still have to prepare for the wedding. If we go, we won't be able to prepare in time. Your wedding dress is still being made, and the business hasn't been arranged yet. What did it mean to hit the snake where it hurts? This was it. Money was Hua Xiaoli's life. She thought about the pile of business deals that had yet to be discussed. Then, when she thought about the wedding day approaching, her burning desire was instantly extinguished. That seems to be the case. She nodded. Lin Fengyi's voice became even gentler. That's right. Be good. Let's prepare everything and wait for them to come back for the wedding. Hua Xiaoli nodded again. Such a gentle miser was rare. She would just go along with his wishes. All the fun and exciting adventures were just fleeting clouds. The two of them spoke one after another, and everyone was silently petrified again. Cold dog food was slapped on their faces. 3 days later, after everyone was ready, they set off with Elder Zhua and the other two. Because she had already made her decision, Chu Qingyan deliberately tested Elder Zhua and the other two. Although they were very impatient about the delay in setting off, they didn't dare to show it. Moreover, when she said that she would accompany them, she was very surprised that they weren't surprised at all. Instead, they seemed to be relieved. This made her even more cautious. However, before the group left Sichuan's capital, Xiao Su looked for Xiao Ho and Xiao Yao to have a chat. Imperial brother, what does this mean? Xiao Ho looked at the imperial edict in his hand, a little confused. Xiao Su had left the palace in the name of visiting incognito. The imperial edict stated that during his absence, Xiao Ho would take on the role of regent and temporarily handle the affairs of the imperial court, while Xiao Yao would assist from the side. That's right. Why didn't you inform us in advance? Xiao Yao poked his head out of the imperial edict, also very confused. Xiao Su thought to himself, if I had informed you in advance, you would have all disappeared. Jean Xian went back to North Korea alone, and Ian was worried. She wanted to go back with him. This way, I'm also worried, so I'll leave the affairs of the country to you for the time being. I'll go with her, Xiao Su replied calmly. This? Xiao Ho felt that something was wrong. Then it's decided. If there are no problems with this imperial edict, I'll announce it in the imperial court tomorrow. Xiao Su made the final decision. Xiao Yao slowly narrowed his eyes. Something was wrong. After his imperial brother and the others left the capital, Xiao Ho stood in the courtyard of his prince's residence. Suddenly, he realized that he seemed to have been tricked by his imperial brother. Men, invite King Xiao Yao to the residence for a chat. Xiao Ho immediately ordered. King Xiao Yao was the title that his imperial brother had given to his second brother last year. It suited his personality perfectly. However, when the servant returned, he said with a bitter expression, Lord, the steward of King Xiao Yao's residence said that their lord went out to travel yesterday. Xiao Ho's mouth twitched. Did he say when he'll be back? He said that his return date is uncertain. Great, this kid slipped away in advance. What did he say about enjoying blessings and enduring misfortune together? Sure enough, he was just talking nonsense after drinking. Once something happened, he ran faster than anything else. Xiao Ho held his forehead, feeling a headache coming on. Lord, are you feeling unwell? The old steward asked with concern. Lord is feeling unwell. Lin Jiangdong shook his head and smiled. Xiaoho waved his hand at the crowd and said, all of you are dismissed. I'll take a walk alone. Everyone tactfully retreated. Xiaoho walked alone in the garden. To tell the truth, he could understand his imperial brother's actions. As a member of the imperial family, he could not be blamed for temporarily taking over the affairs of the imperial court. However, little rascal had not returned yet. He had originally planned to leave the capital to look for her next month. Who knew, Xiaoho had something on his mind. He walked aimlessly in the garden. When he passed by a tree, something suddenly fell. He looked up, but his hands had already reached out to catch it. Her breasts were full, and her smile was as charming as ever. Just like 6 years ago, when you and I first met. Hey, cheeky. For a moment, he saw peach blossoms in her eyes. Chapter 1537. Pang Zhijing had never seen so many different emotions on his face before. Shock, joy, pity, heartache, anger, coldness. She opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but he was already one step ahead of her. After putting her down, he turned to leave with a cold face, as if nothing had happened. Aha! What was this situation? Pang Zhijing blinked her eyes and looked at the person in blue who was about to walk away. Her face was full of confusion. That's not right. Why didn't this shameless person follow the plot? Shouldn't he be hugging her right now and then the two of them would talk about the pain of parting and the joy of reuniting? Why did it seem like he didn't recognize her? Did he lose his memory? That shouldn't be the case. Or did I transmigrate again? Her mind filled with melodramatic scenes one after another. Xiaoho, who had walked 2 or 3 steps, slowly slowed down after digesting this news. Why was there no movement behind him? This wasn't like her personality. Did he scare her? Should he turn back? But she had silently disappeared for 3 years, so he couldn't forgive her that easily. And at this time, Pang Zhijing did not disappoint as she spoke up. "Oh, my foot. Did you twist it? It hurts so much. It seems like it's broken." She cried out, and after a while, a pair of boots appeared in front of her. Xiaoho squatted down and reached out his hand to check her foot, but the person crying out in pain threw herself at him. She really threw herself at him. Xiaoho was pressed down on the grass by her, and her movements caused the leaves to fly. He looked up and saw her sly smile. "Shameless person, I'm back." She hugged his neck and her voice was a bit hoarse, but it was filled with joy and excitement. "Now you finally know to come back." Xiaoho wanted to give her the cold shoulder for a bit, but he couldn't stop the gentleness in his heart. He sat up and hugged her body, as if he wanted to embed her into his body. He didn't dare let go as he tightly hugged her and gave a soft sigh. He was filled with endless yearning. If this was a dream, he hoped that he would never wake up. She rubbed against his chin. This journey had been too tiring, so she didn't want to tell him. "I miss you." As soon as she said that, he suddenly hugged her tightly. "Why didn't you tell me you were coming back? I would have gone to pick you up. Because I want to give you a big surprise." She smiled like a flower in his arms. 6 years ago, she fell from a tree into his arms to escape from a marriage alliance. That was the most embarrassing first encounter she had ever had. To him, it was just an opportunity to do a favor. 6 years later, she returned and fell into his arms again. This time, she wanted to give him a big surprise. However, to him, it was more appropriate to say that he was shocked. "Jing Jing, it's great that you're back." There were too many things he wanted to tell her. However, when he saw her standing in front of him, smiling and acting coquettishly, he suddenly lost his ability to speak. "Yeah, it's good to be alive." She knew what he was afraid of and said seriously, "Xiaoho, I'm back. I tried my best to live on, struggling on the edge of life and death. I didn't dare to give up, afraid that I would never see you again." Xiaoho closed his eyes, the emotions in his eyes surging like clouds. He stood up and pulled her hand to walk forward. However, Peng Zhijing quickly pulled him back. Little ball is still on the tree. Whose little ball? Xiao Ho narrowed his eyes and sized her up. Your daughter. The person in front of him disappeared in an instant, as fast as a gust of wind. I'm so glad that I'm still alive and you're still here when we found out about each other's feelings. All meetings in this world are reunions after a long separation. On the road. Sima Jun looked at Xiao Yao, who suddenly appeared, and rubbed his chin. Weren't you left behind to manage the court? Did you sneak away? They had just left the capital 2 days ago when they saw a man and a horse standing at a fork in the road. They had been waiting for a long time. Since they were already prepared to sneak away, they were naturally prepared to deal with all kinds of ridicule. Xiao Yao waved his paper fan and smiled ostentatiously. I'm a brick that moves wherever there's a problem. Old Third has no problem overseeing the court alone. Moreover, I think imperial sister-in-law's matters are more important than the court's matters. I think you're just itching for a beating. We didn't come out to play. After being brothers for so many years, Xiao Su had long seen through his intentions. He could tell that Xiao Yao wanted to hand over Xishuan to the two of them, so he immediately ran away. Xiao Yao had mentally prepared himself, but he still felt a little guilty when faced with his eldest brother's cold gaze. At this moment, Father Chu, who was squatting at the side and watching his daughter tease his grandson, turned his head and disagreed. Little Shanzi, we're not going to play. Don't be like a child and think about playing all day. Go back and help Ho-Ho. He's been working hard. I'm not going to play. I just want to help. Old Third is smart. You don't have to worry about old Master Ha. Xiao Yao pretended to be obedient. Unfortunately, Father Chu didn't buy it. He shook his finger and said, Little Shanzi, just admit it. You don't want to work, but you still want to play. You gluttonous, lazy, and deceitful liar. Then why are you going too? Xiao Yao stomped his foot. Father Chu said calmly, because I'm a child. I can think about playing all day long. When Nkong heard this, he turned his head and nodded seriously at his imperial uncle. He said, Grandpa wants to play with the baby. Second Huang Su, you've grown up. Don't be like a child and think about playing all day long. Go back and help Ho-Ho. He's been working hard. Chu Qingyan smiled and corrected him. You should call him Third Imperial Uncle. Nkong nodded and turned to Xiao Yao. Go back and help Third Huang Su. Xiao Yao puffed up his cheeks and pointed at Father Chu. He asked his imperial brother, Big brother, why can old master go too? Xiao Su glanced at him indifferently. Because he wants to. Xiao Yao wanted to vomit blood. So what if he had a father-in-law? Then what about imperial grandfather? Why is he here too? Xiao Yao pointed at the retired emperor, who was climbing a tree and looking at a bird's nest not far away. This. Xiao Su pondered for a moment, then said, As your grandson, I have no right to interfere with where imperial grandfather wants to go. If you really want to ask, turn around. Xiao Yao was baffled. Just as he was about to turn around, a slap landed on the back of his head. You brat, you must have eaten a bear's heart and a leopard's gall. You dare to meddle in our affairs. Oh my heavens, when did imperial grandfather come? Don't hit me anymore. Grandson knows his mistake. Nkong looked at Second Huang Su, who was jumping up and down after being hit by the retired emperor, and giggled. What do you think? Chu Qingyan asked the person beside her. Lao is a transparent person. He just doesn't want to spend his thoughts on twists and turns. This is also good. He can be himself freely and freely. Xiao Su replied with a faint smile. You seem to have guessed that he would sneak away. Although it was a question, her tone was certain. Xiao Su smiled but didn't say anything. If he hadn't let him go, Lao wouldn't even be able to leave the prince's estate. She didn't need to ask anything else. Seeing him like this, she already guessed the answer. Turning to look at the flexible Xiao Yao, Chu Qingyan pursed her lips and smiled. With this clown around, the journey wouldn't be boring. Chapter 1538. As soon as little rascal finished speaking, Xiaohou had already leaped onto the tree trunk, but he didn't see anyone. Just then, a soft and cute voice sounded above his head. Beauty crisp. Xiaohou trembled as if he had been electrocuted, then slowly raised his head. The delicate snow doll, with skin so soft that water could be squeezed out, blinked at him with her big eyes. Water spirit. You, our little ball. His voice trembled, as if it wasn't his own voice. Little ball rubbed her eyes and nodded, smiling cutely. Liang went to find Xiao Qiao. Beauty crisp, help little ball take a look. Has Liang found Xiao Qiao? The doll in front of him was as beautiful as a flower. Xiaohou couldn't help but smile. Do you know your father's name? Little ball said confidently, I know, he's called Cheeky. Liang said he's the best Xiao Qiao in the world. Xiaohou's mouth twitched, this little rascal, how did she teach her child? But the last sentence healed him. He reached out to the doll sitting on the branch and said gently, I'm the Cheeky that your mother is looking for. Little ball's eyes lit up, overflowing with joy. At this time, Peng Zhijing had already walked to the tree. She looked up at her daughter and said, Mother has found your father. Little ball didn't have any more questions. She opened her arms and pounced. Xiao Qiao. They were indeed mother and daughter. Their actions were exactly the same when they reunited. Xiaohou hurriedly flew to catch her, then returned to the tree trunk. Peng Zhijing felt as if her eyes were blurred for a moment. She saw Xiaohou and was a little unsteady. When the little body pounced into his arms, he felt as if he was hugging a ball of cotton. He didn't dare to use force, afraid that he would crush her. Xiao Qiao, you're so beautiful, you're the most beautiful Xiao Qiao in the world. Little ball wasn't afraid at all. After falling from a high place, she immediately looked up at the person hugging her, smiling brightly. You're very beautiful too, you're the most beautiful doll in the world. He thought, this is the greatest joy in life. Call me daddy again. But he was still afraid that this was just a dream. Jiao Jiao, Jiao Jiao, Xiaohou's eyes were slightly red. It was as if something had broken out of the ground in his heart and was trying to rush out first. He hugged the ball tightly and buried his head in her shoulder. Something was wet. The fallen leaves rustled down like butterflies, as if his daughter, who had left the nest for many years, had finally returned to his embrace. This year, after experiencing all the pain and sorrow, Xiaohou finally welcomed the little lover of his previous life. Peng Zhijing stood under the tree and looked at his trembling back with tears in her eyes. In just a short while, the big and small figures on the tree appeared in front of her. Jing Jing, this is our daughter. His eyes turned into crescents. He was so happy that he didn't know what to do. She smiled and nodded. Yes, our daughter. He turned his head and kissed the little ball in his arms. I'm very happy. I'm really happy. For the first time in his life, he felt the joy of being alive. He experienced what it meant to be satisfied and happy. Before this, he thought that he would be alone for the rest of his life. Now, not only did he have a wife, but he also had a daughter. Happiness came too suddenly. He stretched out his other hand and pulled little rascal into his embrace. Peng Zhijing hugged him back tightly. You're so thick-skinned. I'm also very happy that we're finally reunited. He responded by hugging her even harder. The little ball followed suit. She reached out her two short arms and hugged Liang and Xiao Qiao's necks. Reunited. Reunited. The autumn wind rustled. However, the love in the human world was so deep that it melted the chill of late autumn. After a while, the little ball said to her father, Xiao Qiao, let me introduce myself again. I'm Little Ball. I'm 2.5 years old this year. Liang, tell me your name. When you come back, I'll let Xiao Qiao give me a name. After saying that, she leaned over and kissed him, leaving a watermark. Then, she laughed. Pang Zhijing saw this and took out a handkerchief to help him wipe his face. She pursed her lips and said, "She's so close to you when we just met. I'm jealous." Xiao Ho wanted to say that this was because of the father and daughter, but he realized something more important. "Why do you call her little ball?" Pang Zhijing coughed softly and was about to change the topic. However, the little ball, who was obsessed with appearances, had quickly betrayed her. "Because Liang Liang said that Xiao Qiao's skin is thicker, so I'm called little ball." She felt the sly smile on his face. She looked up at the sky, the ground, and the trees, but did not dare to look at him. Little ball, who was completely unaware, continued to cut in. "But I don't think Xiao Qiao's skin is thick at all. It's so soft." As she spoke, the little ball left another watermark on her father's face. Xiao Ho felt that his heart had been softened by her. He scratched her little nose. "You're soft too." Pang Zhijing, who thought that she had escaped a calamity, was about to breathe a sigh of relief when a cold voice came from behind her. "If you dare to say it, you must dare to admit it. Don't you think so, mother of the child?" Pang Zhijing felt that she was in the wrong. When she had given the little ball a nickname, she had not thought much about it, but now it had become his little weakness. But she was her daughter. How could she not be able to decide on a name? She thought stubbornly, but as soon as she turned around, a fawning smile appeared on her face. "All right, you want to lecture me as soon as I come back. Can't you say a few words to coax me?" Xiao Ho was amused by her aggrieved and innocent look. "You're already a mother, but you still like to act coquettishly." I don't care. I'm the same age as your daughter. I want to act coquettishly." She refused to give in. Little ball said in all seriousness, "Liang Liang, you're not the same age as me. You're 3 or 4 times older than me. And little ball doesn't know how to act coquettishly. It's so childish." "Ah." Pang Zhijing was dumbfounded. Was she being despised by her daughter? And little ball continued to add, "Liang Liang, you're so childish." Xiao Ho snickered, but he soon received an angry glare from little rascal. He coughed softly, then took her hand and laughed softly. "It's okay. I can raise 2 daughters. A daughter-in-law and a daughter. I feel like you're not comforting me," Pang Zhijing said angrily. Xiao Ho raised his hand to stroke her messy hair, then smiled dotingly. "Then how do you want me to comfort you?" The person in front of her had features as gentle as the spring breeze, and as handsome as a prince. She was momentarily dazed. "Liang Liang, Qiao Qiao, little ball is hungry." At this moment, a pitiful sentence interrupted the two of them as they looked at each other affectionately. Xiao Ho smiled tenderly, then walked forward with the treasure of his life in one hand and the treasure of his heart in the other. "Hungry? Then I'll take you to eat." Pang Zhijing tilted her head slightly to look at him talking to little ball. One big and one small, full of interest. She smiled as she watched. Chapter 1539. The family of 3 entered the courtyard, attracting the attention of countless people along the way. When the old steward received the news, he immediately ran over. Despite his age, he looked like a young man. When he saw the charming Pang Zhijing and little ball walking on her short legs, the old steward burst into tears. "Princess, you're finally back. You don't know how my lord has survived these past few years." When they were in Prince Yi's mansion, the old steward took care of her, so Pang Zhijing immediately greeted the old steward respectfully. When Lin Jiangdong heard the news, he was surprised. It was unbelievable that a person who had disappeared without a trace would appear before him like a corpse. "This is..." Lin Jiangdong asked little ball, who was sitting in his lord's arms and rolling her big eyes. "This prince's daughter," Xiao Ho said proudly. "Ah." Lin Jiangdong was dumbfounded. Not only did the princess come back, but she also brought a baby. Not only Lin Jiangdong, but everyone else present was shocked, followed by ecstasy. Ha 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 ha, their lord had a descendant. Then this old servant will prepare lunch immediately and instruct the kitchen to make all the best dishes. The old steward was so happy that he almost walked in the wrong direction. Little Ball chuckled. Grandpa is so cute. Xiaoho pinched her little cheeks, his eyes full of smiles. Lin Jiangdong, who was standing at the side, looked at Lord, who finally knew how to smile, and his heart was filled with emotion. Ever since the princess left, he had never seen Lord smile, let alone be so happy. The heavens really took pity on him. Lin Jiangdong bowed to Pang Zhijing and said sincerely, "Thank you, princess. Thank you for being alive, thank you for coming back despite the past, thank you for not letting Lord live alone." Pang Zhijing didn't expect Lin Jiangdong to give her such a big bow. Ever since she met this person, he had always been biased against her. Although he was very considerate to her in terms of etiquette, he had never been so respectful. She hurriedly waved her hand and avoided his salute. This was her thick-skinned trusted military advisor. Being thick-skinned was very important. She could not accept such a big salute. When Xiaoho saw this scene, he did not stop her. She had already returned, which meant that she was the mistress of this place. There was no need to regard her as an outsider. Moreover, he also wanted to start helping her establish her authority. When the kitchen got the news, they immediately took out their special skills and made a table full of sumptuous dishes that looked, smelled, and tasted good. The family of 3 sat around the table. "Do you want Daddy to feed you?" Although he had not yet recovered from the ecstasy of seeing his precious daughter, Xiaoho gradually recognized the fact that he did not seem to know how to take care of a child. She was so small, he was afraid that she would break if he held her in his hands. Although it was very difficult, he still wanted to try. Unexpectedly, Little Ball swayed her 2 little braids and said seriously, "No need, I can send some food to eat." Xiaoho was very surprised. Such a small child knew how to eat by herself. But when his youngest daughter picked up the chopsticks and ate like a model, he was really convinced. "Nan Nan, Liang Liang, eat quickly. It won't taste good if it's cold." Little Ball stuffed her mouth full of rice and did not forget to call out to Nan Liang. "Jing Jing, is she always so sensible?" In the face of Thickskin's incredulous question, Pang Zhijing smiled proudly and said, "Yeah, who taught her?" Hearing this, Xiaoho reached out and placed his hand on the back of her hand. He was moved and said, "You've worked hard." She stuck her tongue out at him, then picked up some food with her chopsticks and put it in his bowl. She said with a look of disdain, "Eat quickly. Look at how thin you are. You must not have eaten on time. I think you can't even compare to your daughter." It could be seen that Thick-Skinned had been living a terrible life when she was not around. Everyone looked at her as if she was the goddess of mercy who had saved them from suffering. Xiaoho could not out-talk her, and this was indeed the truth. He let go of her hand and picked up some food for her. The meal ended happily. Nan Nan, hug. Nan Nan, kiss kiss. Nan Nan, look. After eating, Little Ball turned on its clingy mode, calling out coquettishly wherever it went. "Wow, Nan Nan, your house is so big and beautiful. This is your house too. Nan Nan, put me down. I want to chase butterflies." After saying that, Little Ball ran off to the flowers like a ball, huffing and puffing. Xiaoho and Pang Zhijing stood side by side and smiled as they watched their youngest daughter chase butterflies. "It's rare to see her so clingy," Pang Zhijing said softly. When Xiaoho heard this, he turned to look at her. She continued, "When I was pregnant with her, I was still in a coma. After giving birth to her, I was in a half-awake state most of the time due to excessive bleeding. I didn't hold her much, let alone breastfeed her. Perhaps it was because I was injured, but she was really very small when she was born. Yen Luo and the others had to resuscitate her for a long time before she was able to keep her. She was really a very smart and sensible child. When she knew that I was injured, she never cried and asked me to hold her. She only knew how to lie on the bed quietly. When she could crawl, she would not climb on top of me. She spoke later than other children, and when she spoke, the first thing she said was that Bao Bao will be good. Pang Zhijing's tears fell as she spoke. On the other hand, Xiaohou was already heartbroken. He reached out to hug her and hugged her tightly in his arms. From the moment she could walk, she did everything by herself, whether it was brushing her teeth, putting on her clothes, or eating. She never asked for company. She was even more independent than other children her age. Every time, she would sit quietly by the bed to accompany me and make me happy. When she knew that I had to take medicine every day, she would feed me sweets and say that she was afraid that I would suffer. She was already choking with sobs. Xiaohou didn't know what else to say. He could only listen with heartache as she rambled on about the past that he had never been a part of. There was a type of punishment in this world known as the heart punishment. The weapon didn't draw blood, but every blade penetrated the bone. There was no wound, but it was so painful that one couldn't breathe. Xiaohou's voice was low and hoarse as he spoke with endless regret. Jing Jing, I should have accompanied you. I've let you and your mother down. She sniffled. Xiaohou, I'm telling you so much not because I want to blame you, but because I want you to know that little Ball is really very obedient and sensible. In this lifetime, you must treat little Ball well. We owe her too much. Not only did he owe little Ball, but he also owed her. I'll use my entire life to treat her well. As for you, I'll never let go. If it weren't for you, no matter how beautiful the world is, it would have nothing to do with me. Shameless, during those 3 years when she was isolated from the world, she was in a coma. Although she didn't have any news about him, she had many dreams about him. At that time, she didn't dare to believe that he had done so much for her, but now, she believed it. I'll never let go of you again. That time at the cliff won't happen again. Chapter 1540. In the afternoon, Xiaohou stood in the small garden with his lover from his previous life. Nan Nan, what flower is this? Clivia. Then what is this? Peony, the king of flowers. Wow, Nan Nan, you know so much. Awesome. Little Ball immediately turned into a fangirl, looking at him with adoration. It was only a few small questions, but he was able to receive unreserved praise from his little daughter. Xiaohou was extremely flattered, and felt a greater sense of accomplishment than when he made the ministers speechless in court. Little Ball stretched out her arms towards him, and Xiaohou bent down to pick her up. Although it was the first time they met, there was no barrier between father and daughter. Perhaps this was the power of blood. Nan Nan, you're so awesome, you can lift me up high. Little Ball sat on Nan Nan's shoulder, dancing with joy. The scenery in front of her changed instantly, and she was very happy. If you like it, Daddy will often take you to play in the future. Xiaohou's face lit up with a smile. Okay, okay, okay. Little Ball nodded repeatedly. Xiaohou looked at the sun, and said as he walked back, we should go back. Okay, let's go back and find Liang Liang. Little Ball struggled to get down. Daddy will carry you back. Little Ball said with a serious face, Liang Liang, tell me how far you want to go. Xiaohou was surprised at her sensibility, and bent down to put her down. He saw her run a few steps forward, and then turned around to wave at him. Nan Nan, hurry up. Xiaohou smiled and followed with his hands behind his back. The father and daughter found Pang Zhijing by the stone table in the garden. At this time, she was leaning against a tree trunk, asleep. Little Ball saw from afar, and immediately turned to put her index finger to her lips, and whispered to Xiaohou, Nan Nan, be quiet, Liang Liang is broken. Xiaohou's heart immediately softened. He nodded and quietly walked to little rascal's side. Then, he slowly squatted down and looked at the sleeping person. He did not know how she fell asleep. Just now, she was urging him to play with Little Ball. At this time, Lil Ball sighed like a little adult. Liang Liang's body isn't good. Sometimes she falls asleep after saying a few words. Now that she's sleeping here, the wind is so strong. What if she catches a cold? If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have stayed out so late. Liang must be tired from waiting. The child's unintentional words were taken seriously by the listener. Xiao Ho's heart ached. All these years, she had suffered so much. He was still blaming her for not coming back earlier. In fact, it was already a miracle that she could stand in front of him. Don't be afraid, father is here. Xiao Ho carefully picked her up. She did not wake up even after all the commotion, which showed how tired she was. He gathered his thoughts and carried her back to the room. After covering her with the blanket, he sat by the bed and reached out to caress her face. He had not seen her for a few years, and she had become thinner. When he carried her just now, he could clearly feel it. He did not know how she gave birth to little Ball when she was so thin and weak. Nan, Liang often hurts. I'm very sad, but I have no choice. Auntie Ching shrunk. Liang needs to drink medicine, but it's very bitter. My heart aches. But I don't dare to cry in front of Liang. I'm afraid Liang will cry too. I want to be a strong little ball. Sometimes, you don't dare to cry because you have no one to rely on. You know that crying is useless. But now that she had daddy, little Ball looked at her mother who was sleeping on the bed. Her eyes immediately reddened, and her tears fell. She could no longer control herself. Xiao Ho's heart ached so much that he could not control himself. He hugged little Ball and patted her back gently. He comforted her with a hoarse voice, little Ball is very strong. Your father and mother's good daughter. Little Ball sobbed, Nan, do you think Liang will stop hurting in the future? She will, she definitely will. Daddy promises. He solemnly promised Su. Even if he had to give up everything, he would protect both mother and daughter. Okay, I believe you. Little Ball smiled through her tears. Xiao Ho lovingly wiped away the tears on her face and washed her face. Then, he heard her say, Nan, I want to sleep. Okay, I'll carry you to sleep. I want to sleep with Liang. I used to stay by Liang's side. That way, she'll be the first to see me when she wakes up. She won't feel lonely. Little Ball blinked its big eyes and said each word seriously. He knew that for the past 2 years, little rascal had been in a coma in bed. Xiao Ho's eyes reddened. Today, when he heard little rascal say that little Ball was very sensible, he remembered it in his heart. But he did not expect her to be so sensible. He suddenly understood where little rascal's deep self-blame and guilt came from. Because she did not have the right to be willful and act spoiled, she had to learn from him at a young age. She was really too sensible. Xiao Ho hugged little Ball. At this moment, he could not say a word. Words could no longer express his feelings. When he reached the point where he could not speak, the pain was so heavy that he could not speak. Nan, don't be sad. I'll be very obedient. Little Ball did not know what was going on and clumsily comforted him. It's because you're too obedient that Daddy feels so useless. After covering little Ball with a blanket, Xiao Ho sat by the bed and watched over the 2 babies of this life. Nan, good afternoon. Little Ball said and obediently closed her eyes. Good afternoon. Xiao Ho leaned against the bedpost and quietly stared at the big and small one, as if he could not get enough of looking at them in this lifetime. After so many years, his heart, which was like duckweed, finally found a place of peace. He raised his hand and stroked little rascal's cheek. You know, I'm so grateful to the heavens for letting you descend into my life. If not for you, I don't know how many years I would have to live like a walking corpse. When the sun was about to set, Peng Zhijing slowly woke up. When she was about to get up, there was already a pair of hands supporting her arms, helping her sit up. She raised her head. In her sleepy eyes, she saw the elegant and handsome face that she had been thinking about day and night. For a moment, she could not tell where she was and thought that she was still in the Medicine Valley. Her eyes immediately became wet. She raised her hand and lightly hit his chest. You're so thick-skinned. You didn't even come to see me. It's so uncomfortable for me to be alone. Xiaoho subconsciously hugged her and held her in his arms, letting her hit him. She could not tell if it was a dream or reality. When she woke up, she suddenly had a gap to vent her emotions. I'm lying on the bed. My entire body hurts, but I don't dare to move. I don't know how much medicine I've drunk every day. You know that I'm most afraid of pain and crying. I've endured so much, but do you know what I'm more afraid of? I'm afraid that I won't be able to come back. I'm also afraid that I won't be able to take good care of little Ball. I don't know how to explain it to you. 3 years, more than 1,000 days. I miss you so much. Her strong pretense of being strong collapsed at this moment. He hugged her tightly and did not say anything. Because his heart ached so much that he did not know how to comfort her. Chapter 1541. After she was tired from crying, Peng Zhijing finally woke up. She was a little annoyed that she had said all this, but she couldn't take back what she had said. She really wanted to play dead. I think I'm still not awake. I'll go back and sleep for a while. She rubbed her eyes and didn't dare to look at him. She didn't want to admit that she was the hysterical shrew just now. Just as she was about to crawl back under the covers, she was picked up in the air. Hey, what are you doing? She was afraid of falling and immediately grabbed his collar. Xiao Ho looked at her deeply. I'm taking you somewhere. I'm not going. She turned her head and resisted. What a joke. She had smeared her tears and snot all over him. She was too ashamed to see anyone now. Little Ball just fell asleep. If you're not afraid of waking her up, I don't mind talking to you here. Xiao Ho put her down. Peng Zhijing immediately hugged his neck and gave in. She said pitifully, I'll go with you, okay? The angry little tiger suddenly became obedient like a kitten. Xiao Ho didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but more than that, he felt pity for her. Xiao Ho took her out of the room. She didn't know where he was taking her and asked curiously, where are we going? You'll know when we get there. Xiao Ho hugged her steadily and walked forward step by step. With his baby in his arms, he took every step carefully. She wasn't afraid that he would sell her off, so she didn't care. She snuggled in his arms comfortably. This kind of weather was the best for sunbathing and sleeping. He lowered his head. She squinted her eyes like a lazy kitten, and a part of his heart began to warm up. Just as she was about to fall asleep, she heard a pleasant voice above her head. We're here. She opened her eyes abruptly and saw that he was holding her and sitting on a chair. Look up, he said in a low voice. She raised her head obediently, only to see a patch of green above her head. And in this patch of greenery, bunches of grapes that looked like purple pearls hung on the vines. At this time, the moonlight was warm, and they swayed in the night wind, mischievous like purple elves. This is... She was at a loss for words. Didn't you say that when the grapes were ripe, you would eat them all? His gaze turned to the strings of purple. A year ago, I moved those grape trellises to the prince's mansion. I only hope that when you return one day, you will be able to see them all the time. When he said this, his tone was calm and tranquil. He wasn't trying to claim credit, nor was he trying to sweet-talk her. However, in her ears and heart, it was as if a flower had bloomed, and her eyes gradually moistened. Shameless, she hugged him and buried her head in his shoulder. What should she do? She wanted to cry again. But this time, it was tears of joy. In the future, if you want to eat grapes, I'll pick them for you. If you want to see them bloom, I'll water and weed with you. What do you think? He owed her too much. Right now, he only wanted to pile all the beautiful things in front of her for her to choose from. This was supposed to be a warm and romantic scene, but Peng Zhijing felt that something was wrong. It was strange. In the past, his shameless self would only tease and tease her. It was like a joke, eating, sleeping, and playing with Lil Do. He would eat, sleep, and play with Jingjing. This time, he was clearly not right. Pang Zhijing looked up from his shoulder and grabbed his collar with one hand. She shook him and said, "Who exactly are you? A shameless person wouldn't be so mushy. Give me back my shameless self." Sure enough, wherever Pang Zhijing was, romance would not last more than 3 seconds. Xiao Ho's mouth twitched, and he held her mischievous hand. "What nonsense are you saying? If I'm not Xiao Ho, who am I?" Pang Zhijing finally stopped, but there was still suspicion in her eyes. Could it be that she had opened it the wrong way? Wait, if he was indeed a shameless person, Pang Zhijing instantly narrowed her eyes. Shameless? I thought you didn't know how to flirt, but now it seems that you have a lot of tricks up your sleeves. Tell me honestly, when I wasn't around, did you go out to flirt? Look at you, you must be very popular with girls. Xiao Ho was tidying up his collar that she had messed up. When he heard this, he almost fell off the chair. However, he seemed to have smelled something. Was little rascal jealous? He held her shoulders and leaned forward. The distance between the two of them was so close that it was only a piece of paper. Their breaths mingled, and the surrounding air kept heating up. You're jealous? The two of them were already close to each other. With this, her whole body was enveloped by him, and she couldn't move. Coupled with his sudden question, her whole body was as hot as a cooked lobster. She said against her heart, "Who's jealous? Who?" Before she could finish speaking, she was stopped. Xiao Ho used a bit of strength to hold her back and pulled her into his embrace. He desperately wanted to tear her apart and eat her up. Gentle but domineering, lingering but not passionate. Pang Zhijing felt as if she was surrounded by a ball of fire. It was scorching hot, and she couldn't help but want to sink into it. Only when she really couldn't breathe did Xiao Ho let her go. The two young bodies were tightly hugging each other. It was as if there was nothing in this world that could separate them. After her breathing stabilized, Pang Zhijing raised her head and reached out her hand to caress his thin face. Xiao Ho, don't blame yourself. Really, it's not your fault. Although she was magnanimous, it didn't mean that she couldn't see that the person in front of her had been looking at her with a guilty gaze. He was blaming himself and imprisoning himself. Seeing him like this, her heart ached. Jing Jing, if you knew the truth about the assassination that year, you wouldn't think this way. Xiao Ho laughed at himself. It was accompanied by bitterness and fear. If she knew, would she leave him? However, she didn't have the reaction he expected. On the contrary, she gave him a comforting smile. I know everything. I knew it when we were at the cliff. At that time, although she was injured, she hadn't fainted. She saw those black-clothed men bowing to him, but he angrily rebuked them. Seeing that scene, how could she not know? She wasn't stupid. Xiao Ho froze on the spot, and the words he had prepared to say to her were stuck in his throat. Then do you hate me? He couldn't ask this question. He was afraid that if she didn't forgive him, then the warmth in front of him would turn into bubbles and burst. Pang Zhijing had always thought that he was a two-faced and cunning person. He was so smart that he could see through other people's thoughts with a single glance. But now she realized that not only women in love would have their IQ lowered, men were the same. She couldn't help but poke his chest. She said with disdain, "You're so stupid. I'm back. Do you think I came back to take revenge on you?" Prince Yi, who had always been eloquent, was speechless at this moment. Sure enough, if you ask the world what love is, it's just that everything has its weakness. Chapter 1542. It seemed that if she didn't make things clear to him, she would probably see him looking nervous and afraid that she would run away. That way, people would think that she owed him $1 million. Xiao Ho, although you did something wrong, didn't you pay the price? Pang Zhijing sat up straight and held his face with both hands. She looked into his eyes seriously and said word by word, I don't know how you've been through these past few years, but when I came back and saw you, you were dispirited, had lost your will to fight, and had lost weight. I'm very happy that you have me in your heart, but I'm also very sad that you've become like this because of me. But do you know what I'm thankful for? You've let go of your hatred and returned to your true self. This makes me very happy. If suffering is for a person to live a better life in the future, then I feel that what I've experienced in the past few years is all worth it. Xiao Ho, the past is the past. Let's forget about it. To us, the future is more important. She wasn't a person who would talk about principles, but every word she said now was like an invisible hand that untied the knot in his heart one by one. Jing Jing. He pulled her into his embrace again. His heart was surging with waves that couldn't be calmed down for a long time. Growth was to continuously fall, be injured, climb up, heal, and become strong. She leaned into his embrace and played with his fingers. She naughtily raised her head and kissed his chin. Then she giggled and said, "If you really feel bad, then treat me even better in the future. I know that women here have 3 obedience and 4 virtues, but you definitely don't know that men have 3 obedience and 4 virtues. Then I'll teach you today. You must remember." Pang Zhijing was a person who thought very quickly. Normal people wouldn't be able to keep up with her. However, Xiao Ho was already used to her way of doing things. He raised his eyebrows. The 3 obedience and 4 virtues of men sounded quite refreshing. Listen carefully. She cleared her throat. The 3 obedience is, when your wife goes out, you must follow. When your wife orders, you must obey. When your wife says something wrong, you must blindly follow. The 4 virtues are, you can't talk, scold, hit, or provoke. Xiao Ho was a little dumbfounded. It was indeed refreshing. Seeing that he did not respond, Pang Zhijing could not help but repeat, "Do you remember? Looks like I won't be marrying a wife in the future. Instead, I'll be having an empress dowager at home." So. Xiao Ho pinched her chin and lowered his head to bite her lips. Then, he rubbed the teeth marks on her full red lips with his fingers before he slowly replied, "So, you've already admitted that you're my, Xiao Ho's, woman?" Wait a minute, things didn't seem right. Pang Zhijing immediately calmed down. If she admitted it, wouldn't she be at a disadvantage? She hadn't even been proposed to, but she had already given birth to his child. If she were to admit it, wouldn't she be too embarrassed? Stop. She raised her hand to stop his approaching lips and glared at him. There's nothing between us now. If you dare to touch me, I'll sue you for molesting a woman. Xiao Ho couldn't help but laugh in his heart, but his face remained serious. Who says there's nothing between us? We even have a child together. If you're not my wife, whose wife are you? Little Ball is my daughter. It has nothing to do with you. She raised her chin and said arrogantly. Oh. You mean that you've eaten me clean, but you don't intend to take responsibility for me? Xiao Ho approached her with a smile that didn't look like a smile, his words revealing a hint of danger. What? Pang Zhijing was dumbfounded. Who was eating who? Who was going to take responsibility for who? This person's ability to distort right and wrong was getting better and better. You're shameless. She held it in for a long time before she finally said this sentence. Xiao Ho said righteously, I'm going to lose my wife soon. What's the point of being shameless? Pang Zhijing choked. What he said made so much sense that she was actually speechless. Xiao Ho, I realized that after not seeing you for a few years, your skin has become even thicker. I heard that the thicker the skin, the easier it is to get a wife. Xiao Ho even nodded in a serious manner. Pang Zhijing felt that she had lost to him. In the past, she couldn't win against him, and even now, she still couldn't win against him. In the end, she raised the white flag and admitted defeat. Forget it. Since he was her person, there was no harm in being thicker. Where did this demon come from? It's better if you don't harm others. This old monk will take you in right now. She held his face and kissed him heavily on the lips, stamping her unique seal. Xiao Ho was amused by her words. Moved, He reached out to pull her back and deepened the kiss. After a long time, Xiao Ho looked into her eyes and said seriously, "Jing Jing, don't leave me in the future." Pang Zhijing leaned against his chest. Her lips curled up as she slowly nodded. "I won't leave. I want to know how you've been all these years." He stroked the strands of hair by her ear and said gently and lovingly, "There's nothing to say. It's very boring." She lowered her eyes, not daring to look at him. "It's okay. I'll listen to you." He caressed her cheek with extreme gentleness. Those days when he wasn't able to participate were her pain, and also his pain. He wanted to know how she managed to survive those years. Pang Zhijing looked up and saw the intense pain in his eyes. She was stunned for a moment before slowly nodding. "Okay." Under the moonlight, under the grapevines, one spoke softly while the other listened quietly. Those unbearable pain, at this moment, were like the wind blowing through green leaves. Only the rustling sound was left, and it was no longer that heavy and uncomfortable. It turned out that when two people shared the burden, it really wasn't that unbearable. This night seemed very short, but also seemed very long. When she said that she was tired, the moon was about to set. He protected her in his arms and thought about what she had just said. He sat there quietly, allowing the dew to wet his clothes. After a long, long time, he finally carried her and went back the way they came. After a while, a servant came to report that someone had come to visit. He then left the room and went to the guest hall. A figure stood in the hall. Seeing him enter, the figure politely bowed. Xiao Ho was no stranger to this person. She was eldest brother's subordinate in charge of intelligence gathering, Water Spirit. "Your Highness Prince Yi, my master asked me to come and ask if you still remember what he said before?" Water Spirit asked with a smile. Xiao Ho finally remembered what his eldest brother said to him before he left. "I will send you a big gift. If you like it, promise me one thing." Xiao Ho raised his eyebrows. At first, he thought that his eldest brother's words were a bit strange, but his imperial brother never said nonsense. Now he finally understood. Return quietly was his imperial brother's gift to him. Otherwise, no one could quietly send someone to his prince's mansion without being noticed, except for his imperial brother's Shaolai cavalry. Although he had a vague guess in his heart, Xiao Ho still asked, "What does he want this prince to agree to?" Chapter 1543. Water Spirit smiled mysteriously, then took out a bright yellow imperial edict from her sleeve and presented it with both hands. "This is what my master asked of you, Lord." The bright color was enough to blind people's eyes. Looking away from the imperial edict, Xiao Ho didn't reach out to take it. Instead, he turned around and sat down on a chair, smiling faintly. "Why is my brother so sure that this prince will accept this imperial edict?" He didn't need to look at the contents to know what was written. As early as 2 years ago, when his brother ascended the throne, he had seen his brother's reluctance. The position that should have been fought over by everyone was of little value to his brother. In the past few months, he had noticed the changes in personnel in the imperial palace, but his heart wasn't there, so he didn't pay much attention. But a few days ago, when his brother left with his sister-in-law, he temporarily took over the affairs of the imperial court and stayed in the palace for a few days. Only then did he discover that all the guards in the palace had been replaced, and his brother's people had basically been transferred away. Only then did he know what his brother was planning. It turned out that from the beginning, his brother had already made preparations to retire, but he didn't tell anyone. No wonder his brother kept assigning the affairs of the imperial court to him and his second brother these past 2 years. It seemed that this plan had already been in place before he ascended the throne. In these years, his brother didn't show any signs of leaving, but he was already prepared to leave at any time. And this time, Jean Xian's matter was just an opportunity, giving him a perfect excuse to escape. As expected, he still couldn't compare to his brother's meticulousness and patience. But this hot potato, he didn't want to accept it, especially with the return of Little Rascal and Little Ball. He wanted to use all his energy to accompany them. Water Spirit didn't panic because of Xiao Ho's question. and asked respectfully, "Could it be that Lord doesn't like the gift my master gave you?" This king is naturally happy to receive such a great gift. This king is indebted to my imperial brother, so this king will naturally repay this favor. However, this king will not agree to do so in such a manner, so I must ask Miss Shui Ling to pass on a message to my imperial brother. This king is very grateful to him, but this imperial decree should be given to the right person. This king's ambitions do not lie here. Xiao Ho spoke leisurely with a sincere smile, making it impossible for others to refute or force him. No one could bear to make things difficult for such a gentle man. However, Water Spirit seemed to have expected that this mission would not go so smoothly. Her expression did not change, but the smile in her eyes deepened. She took out a letter from her sleeve and said, "Lord, please read this letter before you make a decision." "This is?" Xiao Ho was puzzled. "It's a letter from Yen Luo and Ethereal to the Lord. It explains Princess Pang's condition," Water Spirit replied with a smile. Xiao Ho did not hesitate. He immediately took the letter and opened it. He read the words more carefully than ever. The contents of the letter were about Little Rascal's current physical condition, as well as the medicine and care methods he would need for the next year. It was a densely packed long paragraph, but Xiao Ho patiently read it line by line. "May I know where Miss Cheng and Ethereal are now? I would like to thank them in person for saving Zijing." Xiao Ho put away the letter and asked earnestly. Water Spirit shook her head. "They are already on their way to North Korea. Before they left, they said that a doctor should treat her like a parent. This is what they should do. Please don't take it to heart, Lord." Xiao Ho nodded. Then he would count this favor on his brother and sister-in-law. He would repay them in the future when he had the chance. "However, does my brother have any other instructions?" He did not believe that his brother would ask Water Spirit to take out the letter for no reason. The timing was too coincidental. He knew that his brother would never do anything useless. Water Spirit looked at Xiao Ho with admiration. As expected of her master's younger brother, he was very clever. He could see the problem at a glance. Then she would not beat around the bush. "Lord, do you know where to find the dozens of medicinal herbs that Ethereal wrote in the letter? Do you know where to find the spirit spring that Princess Pang needed to soak in because she was injured in bed before and after giving birth?" Xiao Ho raised his eyebrows. Water Spirit seemed to know what he wanted to say and continued with a smile. "Although those herbs are rare, with Lord's ability, it is not impossible to find them. However, 1 or 2 stalks is not a problem. A year's supply is far from enough." Xiao Ho finally took this question seriously because he believed that his brother would not speak without thinking. "So what does my brother mean?" Just as his master said, Princey would not be calm as long as it was related to Princess Pang. There are all the herbs that Princess Pang needs in the national treasury. The spirit spring is also in the imperial palace. My master said that as long as Lord accepts the imperial edict, you can use the herbs in the national treasury and the spirit spring in the imperial palace. Sure enough, he hit where it hurts. He knew where his weakness was with just a pinch. Xiao Ho narrowed his eyes. As expected, his brother had already set up a trap for him to jump into. However, he had to move forward even though he knew it was a trap. After Water Spirit left, Xiao Ho looked at the imperial edict in his hand and shook his head with a smile. Although his brother handed this hot potato to him, his brother had already managed the Sichuan well in the past few years. All the problems left behind were solved. What was left for him now was a peaceful and prosperous era without the corruption and chaos of many years ago. His imperial brother was also using his own methods to make up for him. The amount of herbs that Little Rascal needed was so large and so rare. It must have been hard for his brother to collect them. In fact, he owed his brother another favor. He opened the imperial edict and looked at the flamboyant words on it. He couldn't help but smile. It wasn't that bad. Jingjing needed to recuperate in the past few years. The environment in the imperial palace was the most suitable for her. Not only was there an endless supply of the most precious herbs, but there were also the best imperial chefs and imperial physicians. If she needed anything, he just needed to give an order and it would be sent to Little Rascal soon. Xiao Ho closed the imperial edict and strode to his courtyard. At this time, Little Rascal had already fallen asleep. He took off his clothes and lay down, hugging her from behind. In a daze, Peng Zhijing felt that he had returned. She mumbled, "Why did you only come back now?" Xiao Ho pulled her into his embrace and rested his chin on the top of her head. He teased in a low voice, "Jingjing, what should I do? For you, I owe my brother a lot of favors again." "Why?" She was a bit confused. She had no idea what had happened. "You don't need to care about the reason. How are you going to repay me?" He didn't need to tell her about the responsibility and righteousness he was willing to take on for her. She also didn't need to know. Those were matters between men. She only needed to be responsible for recuperating and staying by his side. Peng Zhijing seriously considered this problem in her half-asleep state. Seeing that she was really thinking about it, Xiao Ho really liked her dazed cuteness. He leaned forward and nibbled on her earlobe in a flirtatious tone. "Just use your entire life to repay your debt." Peng Zhijing didn't hear clearly. She only felt a hand messing around on her body. She wanted to say something, but her lips were blocked. A lifetime, neither long nor short. It was just enough to repay the debt. Chapter 1544. The night was slightly chilly. The night breeze blew, and the leaves rustled. The moonlight shone on the ground, elongating the shadows of the trees. As time passed, the shadows moved slowly. Inside Prince Yi's residence. The elegant room should have been filled with romance and gentleness, but at this moment, there was a strange silence that was difficult to disperse. When Xiao Ho and Peng Zhijing were honest with each other, the flame of passion that had been ignited was instantly extinguished in that pair of elegant eyes. This was because he saw scars of various sizes on that fair, jade-like body. Although they had already healed, he could still imagine how dangerous it had been and how much pain she had been in through those hideous scars. He straightened his body and reached out to touch the scars on her back. Peng Zhijing, who had been surrounded by fire just a moment ago, felt the temperature drop in an instant. She couldn't help but open her eyes and instantly met his bewildered gaze. She quickly guessed why he had such an expression. She couldn't help but pull up the blanket to cover the scars on her body. She pursed her lips and looked away. "Xiao Ho, don't look. So ugly, don't look." But the moment she grabbed the blanket, the back of her hand was covered by his hand, stopping her in her tracks. She was stunned and raised her head to look at him. She only heard him say to her in an extremely gentle voice, "Jing Jing, let me take a look." His voice was full of tenderness, but there was no disdain in his eyes. Peng Zhijing slowly let go of the blanket and lowered her head. Her black hair fell from her temples and covered her face. At the same time, the scars of various sizes on her back were also exposed. Anyone who practiced martial arts could tell that those were scratches. Some were only as short as a fingernail, while others spanned the entire length of her back. It was as if this beautiful woman was going to be cut in half at the waist. His gaze shifted upwards. On her shoulder armor, there were all kinds of scars. Xiao Ho's eyes were filled with shock and regret. He raised his hand and slowly stroked those scars. His voice was filled with suppressed emotions. "Are these all left behind from the cliff that day?" "Yes. Fortunately, there was an old tree at the bottom of the cliff at that time. I fell on it and borrowed the branches and leaves to reduce the impact. The scars on my back were caused by the branches at that time. Although they look terrible, they are actually not very serious. The more serious injuries are that my hands and feet were smashed on the rocks on the ground. My arms were broken, my hamstrings were broken, and my internal organs were almost displaced." She didn't want to tell him at first, but in the future, as husband and wife, they would see each other every day. It would be difficult for him not to see it even if he didn't want to. She might as well tell him at once, so that he wouldn't be filled with worry and self-blame in the future. However, she didn't know that her calm narration of these things made Xiao Ho feel even more uncomfortable. He wished he could suffer for her. His hands caressed her shoulders, her arms, her feet. Bit by bit, he carefully examined them. Facing his lover who had been lost and found again, absence made the heart grow fonder. At such a time when they were facing each other, it should have been difficult for him to control himself. However, he restrained himself. There was no lust in his eyes as he carefully and lovingly kissed those scars. Does it still hurt? He caressed one of the scars on her ankle. It was obvious that her hamstring was broken and then reconnected. His heart twitched. She shook her head. It doesn't hurt anymore. At that time, I was probably numb from the pain. My whole body was injured and I couldn't tell where the pain came from. It felt like my body didn't belong to me anymore. As soon as she finished speaking, she was pulled into a warm embrace. She could feel his fear, pain, and love. She knew that he would be like this as soon as she came back. Xiao Ho, I was already awake a year ago. But do you know why I waited until today to come back? Why? His voice tightened as he asked in a low voice. She leaned on his shoulder and said softly, because if I came back then, I was afraid that you would feel even more heartache for me. So I decided to stay and recuperate so that I could stand in front of you again, full of energy. She pursed her lips and her voice suddenly lowered. But those days of recovery were really tough. You weren't by my side, so I could only bear it alone. I was like a child, learning to walk step by step. With every step, my hamstring hurt so much that it felt like a knife was cutting it. I gritted my teeth and told myself that if I didn't walk 1,000 steps today, I would have to postpone seeing you by another day. So no matter how difficult it was, I had to do my best to complete it. I wasn't afraid of the medicine no matter how bitter it was. With the little ball and the memories you gave me, I felt that bitterness was sweet at the same time. This afternoon, he wanted to hear her talk about what had happened in the Medicine Valley. She didn't go into detail and didn't tell him how hard it had been for her. He could imagine how painful it must have been to reconnect a broken hamstring. Her bones were broken and there wasn't a single part of her back that wasn't injured. But at this moment, there was nothing he could do. He could only listen to her speak. Every word was like a knife cutting his heart. Xiao Ho, I wasn't a strong-willed person in the past. Everything I did was short-lived. When I met with difficulties, I would take the initiative to avoid them. I never thought of using my own strength to solve them. Pang Zhijing suddenly said in a serious tone. Xiao Ho couldn't help but look up at her in a daze. But ever since I met you, I learned not to hide from my true feelings. It was you who gave me the courage to face all the hardships. It was also you who gave me hope for life. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gritted my teeth and persevered under those circumstances that were more painful than death. Those pains couldn't be described with words. But at this moment, what she wanted to share with him was her growth. It was he who taught her how to love someone. It was also he who taught her that behind love was giving. But during your most difficult days, I wasn't by your side. Xiao Ho caressed her face, his eyes full of regret. Pang Zhijing shook her head. No, you were always by my side, in my dreams. In your dreams? He was surprised. She nodded. When I was pregnant with little Ball, I was still in a coma. There were many times when I almost couldn't hold on any longer. I would see you in my dreams. You would hold my hand and accompany me quietly. That gave me strength. There were also times when I could see you but you couldn't see me. When I saw you feeling depressed because of me, I couldn't wait to walk in front of you and tell you that I won't allow you to waste your life for me. Perhaps it was because of this that I managed to hold on again and again. Xiao Ho was stunned. Because in these few years, little rascal had also appeared in his dreams countless times. When the two of them compared, he realized that their dreams were actually the same. This is too inconceivable. She couldn't help but widen her eyes. When longing triumphed over distance, there would be miracles. Xiao Ho hugged her tightly. Maybe the heavens want to make up for all the hardships we've suffered all these years. Pang Zhijing nodded. Actually, towards those painful experiences that she couldn't